The core of the world's top simulation hums with dangerous digital life. Millions drift in the void, trading real bodies for digital paradise. One man rules this chaos, a masked legend of absolute ruthlessness. He is rank 13, a telekinetic master who breaks physics for fun. He freezes 1,000 arrows mid-air with just a casual wave. Armies below freeze, realizing their numbers mean nothing against a god. He drops from the sky like judgment, wiping the board clean. Raw magic screams around him as he deletes everything in his path. But even a top ranker can be blindsided by a system update. He corners a high priest, securing a quest item after months of grinding. The NPC begs for mercy, ranting about players ruining his world. Our boy Bae Doyeon ignores the noise and grabs the loot. He thinks he won the game, but the game plays him. Touching the artifact triggers a glitch that rips reality apart. The world fractures, dragging him into a darkness too heavy for VR. He wakes up gasping in his pod, lungs burning like he drowned. A corporate hit squad stands over him, delivering the chairman's final order. They drag him out, treating the ranker like common trash. Real death stares him in the face, stripping away his arrogance. The blade drops, lights go out, and his story should end. Instead, he snaps awake in a luxury bed, alive but somewhere else. A maid stares at him, asking why the young lord is screaming. A blue game window pops up, mocking his new reality. He stares at the interface, wondering how it followed him to the afterlife. The face in the mirror is a stranger named Raoul Ashton. He tests the body, feeling the lag of a weak vessel. His old avatar haunts him, a reminder of the power he lost. A spark of mana flickers, proving the system is still online. He is now the third son of a noble house facing ruin. If he doesn't act, this family dies in 3 years. He sprints down the hall, adrenaline overriding his weak legs. He grabs a sword, the weight grounding him in this new life. To survive the coming apocalypse, he needs to start grinding right now. Training begins immediately, his movements sharp despite the sloppy muscles. 5 minutes later, he hits the floor, lungs heaving like broken bellows. The maid watches, wondering when the lazy master got so intense. Days later, the estate buzzes for the coming-of-age tournament. Butler Ivan begs him to quit, terrified the boy will break. Raoul walks past him, eyes locked on the arena. A massive goon blocks the entrance, eye grinning like he found a toy. This is Dion, a cousin who treats bullying Raoul as a sport. Raoul doesn't flinch, staring up at the giant without fear. Dion whispers a threat, promising to make the beating memorable. Raoul gives him a look that says, "I will destroy you." Count Ashton watches from the high seats with a heavy frown. He sees his son's name and wonders if the boy wants to die. It seems like a bad joke, the fragile child playing knight. He gave up on Raoul years ago, leaving him to the wolves. He called the bullying character building and looked the other way. But today, something about the boy feels different. The gates open, and Raoul steps into the sandpit. His first opponent is a wall of muscle expecting a free win. Raoul is already sweating, his stamina bar flashing red early. The big guy swings, and the impact rattles Raoul's bones. The brute keeps coming, swinging a claymore like a bat. Raoul dances through the kill zone, reading attack patterns like a book. The crowd quiets down, confused why the weakling isn't dead. Raoul catches the blade on his guard, dumping the guy's weight. The giant stumbles, realizing too late that he overcommitted. Raoul drives a fist into his gut, shutting down his nerves. The audience gasps as the heavy favorite hits the dirt. Raoul lands light, dusting off his shirt like it was nothing. He glances at the VIP box, daring his father to look away. The brute screams on the ground, ego bruised worse than his ribs. Raoul walks away, already bored with this low-level competition. He leans against the tunnel wall, fighting the urge to faint. A blue box pings, and a grin splits his face. I level up. The addiction kicks in. He can break this game all over again. He cleans his blade, ready for the main event. The final round starts, and Dion waits with murder in his eyes. Raoul raises a hand, wrapping telekinesis around his fingers. Dion powers up, his sword glowing with lethal mana. Ivan grips the railing, looking ready to have a heart attack. He knows Dion fights to maim, not just to win. The bully raises his sword, savoring the violence to come. Raoul smirks, seeing a dozen openings in that sloppy stance. Dion charges, roaring like an idiot. Swords lock in the center, and the ground shakes. Dion pushes down, putting all his weight into the crush, but Raoul holds firm, eyes glowing blue as he cheats physics. The system scans Dion, highlighting every flaw in red. Dion panics, swinging wild as his strength fails. Raoul slips inside the guard, slicing the armor straps. He weaves around the attacks, making the big man look clumsy. A quick leg sweep sends the bully crashing into the dust. Dion scrambles up, eyes bloodshot, abandoning all rules. Raoul parries the mana strike, the sound echoing through the stadium. He decides he is done playing with his food. Dion swings blindly at ghosts, completely outclassed. Raoul stops his blade an inch from Dion's throat. The cousin collapses, defeated by fear as much as fatigue. Raoul looks at the referee, waiting for the call. The victory horn blows, and the crowd loses its mind. He smiles, knowing he just rewrote the hierarchy. Then his battery dies, and he faceplants into the sand. He wakes up to a reward screen, tons of gold, and a rare book. The Count looks down, his expression unreadable. He knows that kind of skill doesn't come from luck. The old lion realizes the cub just grew fangs. That night, Raoul stands in the office, demanding a ticket out. He wants to go to the academy, to the real world. The Count hesitates, the protective father battling the pragmatist. He warns Raoul that the world eats weaklings for breakfast. Raoul stands his ground, refusing to back down. The Count grins, deciding to test that resolve personally. He chuckles, the sound deep and terrifying. If Raoul wants to leave, he has to get past the boss first. The Count draws his greatsword, filling the room with pressure. Raoul grips his hilt, sweat rolling down his back. Cut to a carriage rolling down the mountain road. Raoul touches his cheek, wincing at the memory. He barely survived, but he landed one clean hit. That scratch on the Count's face was his exit visa. The estate fades away, and he breathes freely. He swears he will never be the underdog again. Back home, the Count touches the bandage on his face. He is proud, even if he will never say it out loud. In the carriage, Raoul checks his inventory, prepping for the grind. The tutorial is over. The real game starts now. They are heading to Meera, the city of gold and lawlessness. White towers rise from the valley, promising wealth to the bold. Raoul watches the city approach, calculating profit margins. He briefs his head Knight Sir Philip on the plan. Philip nods. A loyal tank who could bench press the carriage. Behind them, 50 elite soldiers march in lockstep. They roll through the gates, heavy wheels clattering on stone. Raoul activates analysis, reading the city data like a spreadsheet. Meera is a trade hub, but that's not why he is here. He is here for the Cursed Forest, a glitch zone with infinite spawns. It is the perfect XP farm for his private army. He checks his gold reserves, ready to buy cooperation. He sits in the mayor's office, staring at a greedy man. Mayor Ronaldo sweats, wondering why a high noble is here. He starts calculating how much he can skim off the top. Raoul smiles, knowing exactly what the guy is thinking. The mayor laughs nervously, offering a tour of the gardens. He babbles about safety, trying to steer the conversation. Raoul cuts him off. I want the Cursed Forest. The mayor chokes on his tea, terrified of the liability. Raoul drops a heavy sack, coins clinking loudly. The mayor's eyes bulge at the $500,000 gold. The next second, the forest doesn't seem so dangerous. He grabs the bag, practically bowing as he signs the permit. Raoul leaves, scanning the streets for prime real estate. He plans to buy every vacant lot before players arrive. When the servers go public, this land will be priceless. That night, he watches his future empire from the balcony. Contracts are signed, and the takeover has begun. He calls his officers, establishing the first guild in history. Philip and Bernard stand ready, officers of a new empire. The first guild emblem goes up on the wall. Next stop, the skill shop, usually for window shopping. A rare manual sits in the case, glowing with power. The clerk tries to explain the VIP pricing. Raoul asks how much for the whole shelf. He dumps a mountain of gold, clearing the inventory. The clerk shakes, probably calculating her commission. Knights haul books back, grumbling about carrying paper. They think it's a waste, but they don't know the meta. Raoul ignores them. Skills scale better than gear. Back in his room, he sits in a fortress of books. He pulls out the skill journal, the cheat item from his past life. It hums with energy, waiting to be fed. He holds up a stack, blue light connecting them to the journal. Books dissolve into light, knowledge flowing into his brain. It's a massive download, absorbing decades of martial arts. The room shakes as the magical pressure spikes. He slams the journal shut, the process complete. A notification confirms the acquisition of Copycat. This S-rank skill lets him steal any technique he sees. He stares at the book, realizing he is now the most versatile fighter. The potential is limitless if he survives long enough to use it. The next morning, they march into the Cursed Forest. Raoul looks tired but wired, buzzing with new energy. Bernard is there, dressed like a butler, but moving like an assassin. Raoul notices the psychic aura around him, another hidden gem. He taps Bernard's shoulder, hinting at his potential. A giant green orc crashes through trees, roaring a challenge. It swings a club the size of a tree trunk. Raoul blinks out of existence and reappears right above the monster's head. One punch drops the beast, shaking the ground on impact. But the forest answers, and an orc chieftain steps out. It screams, and 100 warriors charge from the shadows. Raoul draws his sword, blue fire coating the steel. The melee is chaotic, bodies flying everywhere. A knight goes down, dissolving into pixels. Permadeath is real here. The other soldiers hesitate, fear creeping in. Raoul gets slammed back, digging trench lines with his boots. He snaps his fingers, ripping weapons from the ground. He launches them like missiles, shredding the front line. He catches the chieftain in a telekinetic grip, crushing it. Philip finishes the job, looking at his lord with new fear. Raoul stands in the carnage, cloak flapping in the mana wind. He turns to his troops, face cold as stone. He tells them this is the standard now, and they better keep up. He explains the journal's power, locking in their loyalty. A system ping alerts him to a global chat. Players are coming. He realizes the timeline is accelerating. Meanwhile, in a dark alley, House Randall makes a mess. Ramon Randall wipes blood off his blade, smiling like a maniac. The scar on his eye twitches as he surveys his handiwork. His brothers warn him about the noise, but he doesn't care. He says they hunt Ashtons and laws don't apply. He kicks a dead guard, proving his point. Jerry Randall flips a dagger, twitching with nervous energy. They laugh about killing Raoul and ending the bloodline. A wall explodes next to them, showering them in debris. Raoul steps through the dust, eyes burning blue. He looks at the dead bodies and decides diplomacy is over. He stands alone in the street, blocking their path. Ramon sneers, asking if the little lord got lost. The brothers laugh, mocking his lack of backup. But Philip is already on the rooftops, locking down the block. The trap is set, and the Randalls are already dead. Raoul waves his men back. He wants this kill for himself. He tells Bernard to heal civilians while he takes out the trash. He draws a rapier, mirroring their family's signature weapon. House Randall is new money. Risen by violence. They have picked fights with House Ashton for years. They think Raoul is the weak link, the easy target. The map shows all the border raids they've incited. Back in the fight, Raoul takes a stance. He spins the rapier, the air humming around the blade. A Randall knight charges and gets dropped instantly. Raoul flicks the blood off, telling the brothers to hurry up. Ramon and Jerry rush him, attacking from both sides. Raoul slides under a swing and slices Jerry's leg open. Ramon backs off, realizing the kid is fast. The Randall captain, Jeremy, steps in, sword drawn. He admits he underestimated the boy, but playtime is over. The system tags Jeremy as level 65, a real threat. Raoul tightens his grip, focus sharpening. Jeremy flares his aura, the ground cracking under his boots. They circle each other, eye waiting for the first mistake. Raoul knows he can't win fair with the level gap. Jeremy lunges, fast as a viper. Raoul barely deflects, the shockwave traveling up his arm. Jeremy uses Bear Strike, summoning a mana beast. Raoul rolls away as the street explodes behind him. The fight is a blur of steel and sparks. Raoul is on the defensive, purely reacting. Jeremy gets annoyed, deciding to use the family secret technique. He winds up for Shooting Star, a move that never misses. He grins, telling Raoul to say his prayers. Raoul watches, his copycat skill hungry for the data. The soldiers watch in horror, knowing what comes next. Air pressure drops as mana condenses on Jeremy's blade. Jeremy realizes too late that Raoul isn't scared. He's studying. The captain thrusts, unleashing a storm of starlight. Raoul takes a hit to the shoulder, eye blood spraying, but he steps forward, right into the danger zone. He ducks the main beam, eyes locked on Jeremy's form. The system pings, skill copied. Raoul mimics the stance, his own mana turning gold. Jeremy freezes, seeing his own technique reflected back. Raoul fires, and a golden beam engulfs the alley. Jeremy screams, demanding to know who taught him that. Raoul drives his blade through the captain's guard. Jeremy falls, his armor and his pride shattered, skill added to journal. Raoul stands panting, the golden light fading. He looks down at the defeated enemy with cold eyes. He warns the survivors that House Ashton is off limits. His level jumps, the XP from a captain pushing him higher. Copycat is broken, but it drains his mana tank dry. He wheezes, trying to stay upright. The Randall brothers are shaking in their boots. The golden residue still hangs in the air like dust. Raoul thinks, I see an opening. He checks his skill list, satisfied with the haul. The youngest Randall drops his sword, sobbing. Raoul signals Philip to wrap it up. Ivan bows, looking at Raoul like he's a deity. Raoul sheathes his weapon, the night's work done. He looks at the moon, knowing this is just the prologue. The team marches back, dragging the prisoners. Mayor Ronaldo watches from his window, soaking wet with sweat. He realizes he almost crossed a monster. He hides under his desk, praying Raoul forgets about him. He decides to be the best friend Raoul ever had. The soldiers count the loot, grinning at the gold. Raoul walks ahead, mind already on the next city. The legend of the hidden swordmaster starts tonight. Back at the inn, Raoul opens the tournament reward box. It's a B-rank lottery ticket. He prays for good RNG, hoping it's not trash. He rips the pack open. It's a spear manual, exactly what he needed. He grins, blue light reflecting in his eyes, one last loose end to tie up in Meera. He returns to the forest, flexing his telekinesis. He tears the ground apart, creating a massive choke point. He tests the spear skills on a random ogre, drilling it. He looks at his hands, feeling the old power returning. Ivan scolds a soldier, keeping discipline tight. Raoul keeps his secrets close, trusting only the inner circle. He sets the bait for the Imperial hounds tracking him. In the city, Nakia closes up her alchemy shop. shop. Business is good, thanks to Raoul's monster parts. Philip drops off a crate, polite as always. Nakia blushes, thinking about the mysterious lord. She walks home, are eager to see her little sister, but the door is ajar and the lights are out. Her heart stops as she sees the wrecked room. A knife holds a note to the pillow. "We have your sister. Keep your mouth shut." Terror grips her, and she runs into the night. The guards ignore her pleas, too lazy to help. She remembers Raoul's promise to aid her. She runs to the Ashton estate, tears blinding her. Raoul is waiting on the balcony, like he knew she'd come. He clenches his fist, blue sparks dancing. He opens a secret forum interface from his past life. It's time to hunt some kidnappers. Digital avatars of his past life flicker on the screen, haunting remnants of a life he left behind. With quiet control, he smiles, knowing this forgotten forum is a goldmine of information only he can access. Scrolling through the quest list reveals the perfect mission to set his new plan in motion. Bernard interrupts his research to announce that the distressed alchemist from his memories has finally arrived. Nakia stands before him now, her eyes wide with a fear she can no longer hide. Without delay, she pleads for a rescue, her voice heavy with the crushing weight of guilt. Raoul grips her shoulders to steady her, promising with cold confidence that he already has a lead on the location. The head butler offers a fresh towel, maintaining the impeccable standards of House Ashton even in a crisis. Outside in the biting night air, the elite knights stand like iron statues waiting for the word to strike. In an instant, he hands over the secret orders, his gaze sharp and full of lethal purpose. The system confirms the objective: crush the bandits and bring every single innocent hostage back home alive. The small army marches into the shadows. A silent figure watches from the tree line as Sir Piers takes his designated position in the dark. The archer spots the target location ahead, his eyes narrowing as he tracks the sentries through the brush. The rescue operation is officially live. Moving through the high canopy, Piers reflects on the young lord's strange but incredibly effective combat advice. The boy had cornered him at the training grounds, seeing flaws in his technique that even masters had missed. The lord saw past the standard drills, suggesting a path that prioritized fluid instinct over rigid military tradition. In a heartbeat, he handed the archer dual blades, forcing him to adapt to a style that pushed his physical limits. Raoul knew that his real strength was agility, not the raw, heavy power that most knights rely on to win. The advice was simple: stop forcing the sword and start utilizing those natural, world-class archery talents. Piers smiles, finally feeling truly useful. Just like that, he readies his bow for combat. The young lord monitors the forest, his memories acting as a perfect mental map for the coming slaughter. These aren't simple thieves. They're the Imperial Hounds, elite spies sent to burn the kingdom down from the inside. Moments later, he gives the signal to strike, trusting his elite archer to take the first vital piece off the board. An arrow whistles through the leaves. The Ashton heir pulls a scroll from his inventory, preparing to dismantle the enemy's magical defenses with one move. A crimson magic circle erupts from the soil, a lethal trap designed to turn every intruder into a pile of ash. With quiet control, he channels mana into the steel of his blade, focusing every ounce of his energy into a single devastating point of impact. The strike hits the center of the rune with a deafening crack of raw, unbridled energy. Magical glass shatters in every direction as the formation collapses, leaving the base completely vulnerable to a ground assault. The barrier is gone, exposing the panicked spies to the cold reality of the Golden Bear's legendary blades. With no warning, he orders the knights to push the line, forcing the defenders to reveal their numbers and panic. The squad plunges into the fray. Raoul draws his own string, cold and calculated as he begins to thin out the herd from the shadows. Philip acknowledges the order with a sharp nod, preparing his massive shield to breach the inner sanctum. 4 elite warriors stand before the gate, forming a strike team that the bandits never had a chance against. Before anyone reacts, they discover the structure inside. Steel rings out as they advance through the cavern, their weapons at the ready for an ambush from the dark. The young master opens his senses to the environment, feeling the thrill of the hunt settle into his bones. On reflex, he blurs through the courtyard, moving at a speed that makes the common guards look like stationary targets. A bandit lunges into a blade. Philip stands like a mountain, his shield absorbing a blow that would have shattered a normal man's reinforced arm. Raoul lets an arrow fly over the knight's shoulder, pinning an attacker to the wooden wall behind him. The coordinated assault is a massacre, leaving the bandits with no room to breathe and no time to react. More enemies flood out from the stone barracks, their faces twisted in shock as they realize their fortress is falling. In the scramble, he doesn't slow down for a second, already drawing another arrow as he counts the wave of incoming soldiers. The boy vaults into the air, raining down death with an accuracy that borders on the truly supernatural. Telekinesis guides every single shot. The bandits panic as the arrows change direction mid-air, curving around shields to find their targets with ease. With calm precision, he lands on a high beam to survey the mess, looking down like a predator deciding who dies next. On pure instinct, he drops back into the fight, his eyes ignite with a blue spiritual spiritual glow, signaling the end of any remaining mercy for these imperial spies. Out of nowhere, he cuts through them like silk. Another body crumples to the floor, silenced by the terrifying speed of the young House Ashton master. A rain of blue energy follows. Assessing the damage, he notes that while he's efficient, his true power has yet to be fully unleashed. Without thinking, he floats above the carnage. The fight draws to a close as the remaining bandits realize they've walked into a high-level professional's trap. A terrified mercenary begs for his life, but the cold steel at his throat offers him no mercy today. A knight finishes the job. Piers clears the last walkway. Raoul helps a rescued villager to their feet, his voice urgent as he asks where the other prisoners are. For the briefest moment, they point into the blackness. The team moves down further. In the scramble, he offers Piers a rare word of praise, acknowledging the archer's incredible growth during the heat of the raid. Malice hangs heavy in the air. No time wasted. He issues the final directive, telling the knights to clear every cabin and leave no man or monster alive. Raoul kicks a locked door open with the pommel of his sword, only to feel a sudden, unnatural chill. A massive hand reaches out. A mutated red arm lunges from the dark and crushes a knight's reinforced chestplate like it was tinfoil. A hulking red monstrosity steps into the light, letting out a roar that threatens to collapse the entire cave. Raoul recognizes the horror immediately. A chimera soldier, the same twisted result of imperial science he saw in his past. The beast swings with a force that sends elite soldiers tumbling backward, their rigid formations broken in a single heartbeat. That fast, he slides under a massive clawed swipe, his eyes already searching for the biological flaw in this artificial monster. All of a sudden, he realizes these things don't share human anatomy, meaning he'll have to adjust his killing stroke to be effective. "Take their heads," he bellows. No time wasted, he leaps over the beast. His blade bites deep into the creature's neck, but the mutated tissue barely seems to notice the strike. Dust falls from the ceiling as a second chimera drops down, trapping the strike team in the narrow room. These villagers didn't just go missing. They were harvested and twisted into mindless puppets by the Empire's heartless alchemists. With icy calm, he delivers a high-speed slash that finally severs the beast's head, putting an end to its wretched, agonizing existence. The giant corpse hits the floor with a bone-jarring thud, releasing a foul stench of death and chemicals. Just like that, he spots the glowing core. A massive fist shatters the floor right where he was standing, but the young noble is already moving. Without thinking, he strikes the pulsing core in the monster's chest, shattering the dark magic that kept the thing alive. For the briefest moment, he lands a perfect killing blow. The knights struggle to hold back the tide of muscle, their shields groaning under the pressure of the monsters. Raoul steps into the center of the chaos, his calm voice bringing order back to his increasingly panicked men. In an instant, they find the laboratory. The rows of preservation tanks make his stomach turn, a grim reminder of how far the Empire is willing to go. Without delay, he remembers the current emperor as a madman who saw his subjects as nothing more than biological raw materials for war. The memory of a general's explosive death flashes in his mind, a warning of the traps these people love. Red magic begins to pulse. The mages start the ritual. A beat later, he orders Piers to silence the casters before the self-destruct can level the entire mountain and kill the team. The archer takes a deep breath and draws his string to the limit, locking onto the targets above. A hooded figure drops dead. Raoul charges through the magical feedback, his sword cutting through the smoke as he leads the final charge. A mana-infused kick shatters stone. For a moment, he targets the lead mage. No hesitation, he coats his arrows in a thin layer of telekinetic force, a trick designed to pierce high-tier magical shields. The blue energy drills through the barrier and buries itself in the caster's chest, ending the ritual in seconds. The magic circle finally shatters. Raoul sprints toward the enemy commander, who watches from the ramparts with a look of pure, unadulterated hatred in his eyes. Their steel finally meets. Philip enters the duel, but even his level 90 strength is being pushed back by this imperial heavy's power. The commander bellows a war cry, his armor beginning to pulse with a dark, violet energy that screams danger. Raoul realizes that his current blade is too light to do any real damage to this specialized reinforced plating. Piers fires a suppressing shot just in time, saving a fellow knight from being crushed by a charging beast. Moments later, he unleashes a flurry of stabs. In a split second, he intercepts an overhead smash with his blade, the sheer force of the impact vibrating through his entire skeleton. With icy calm, he notices the specific curve of their rapiers, a trademark of the elite warriors serving the treacherous and greedy House Randall. The commander sneers behind metal. A heavy blow catches a guard in the chest, sending him skidding across the floor with multiple broken ribs. The enemy activates a forbidden skill, his body radiating a heat that begins to warp the air itself. Straight away, he charges at Raoul like a living cannonball, determined to end the young noble's interference once and for all. It's imperial power armor. The boy braces for the impact, knowing he can't afford to take this hit directly if he wants to live. Shimmering light deflects his counterattack as the armor's force field absorbs the mana from his mana-infused blade. The armored giant looms over. The metal plates begin to grind and shift, the armor transforming into a more lethal and offensive configuration. A blast of energy erupts from the giant's gauntlet, turning the stone floor into molten slag with one shot. Before anyone reacts, he blinks out of existence. A notification pings in his ear. The secret item from his past life is finally starting to wake up. Golden light floods the room. The system confirms the activation of the regnator, a mythical-grade power armor that shouldn't even exist in this era. In an instant, he summons the true power. Golden gauntlets materialize around his arms, crackling with a lightning that makes the very air around him tremble with energy. In a split second, he throws a testing punch, the sonic boom from the movement alone blowing back the thick smoke in the cavern. The two warriors collide with the force of a falling star, the shockwave from the impact throwing everyone back. Imperial armor starts to buckle. Moving like a golden phantom, he begins to systematically dismantle the commander's once impenetrable defensive posture. Amid the chaos, he shatters the main shield. A relentless barrage of golden strikes rains down, leaving the enemy commander with no chance to breathe or recover. With one final, thunderous blow, he cracks the enchanted helmet open like a piece of cheap, unbaked pottery. Immediately, he drives his sword through the opening, ending the fight with the cold and heartless precision of a master. The golden radiance slowly fades. Raoul drops to his knees, his body screaming in agony as the massive mana drain takes its final toll. The armor dissolves into sparks. A shadowy figure steps out from the lingering dust, the real mastermind who has been hiding in the depths. It's a golden knight wreathed in violet flames, looking more like a demon than any human warrior should. The knight unleashes a wave of corrupt energy that coats the entire room in a sickly and unnatural purple hue. A massive purple chimera beast lurches forward, its eyes reflecting the dark and twisted magic of its master. Raoul stands to face both threats, his knights battered but refusing to let their young lord face this alone. The golden knight and the purple beast charge in unison, a combined attack meant to finish off the survivors. Moments later, he weaves through the magical fire, his blade finding its mark in the knight's throat just as his power fades. The golden knight falls, his body dissolving into ash before it even has a chance to hit the floor. Without thinking, he wipes blood from his mouth. No hesitation, he clenches his fist tight, knowing that the real war with the Empire has only just begun to heat up. In a split second, he holds the magic stone. On reflex, he hesitates for a second, weighing the immense power of the artifact against the obvious and heavy cost. The broken armor lies scattered. It's useless as gear now, but it's the perfect evidence to bury the reputation of his enemies in the capital. The city erupts into cheers. The captured bandits are paraded through the streets, a public display of the Golden Bear's absolute and terrifying authority. Even the arrogant soldiers of House Randall look like beaten dogs as they are dragged to the city dungeons. The treasure hall is massive, enough to fund his guild for the next 10 years of rapid expansion. With icy calm, he rides through the crowd. Before anyone reacts, he reports the victory to the mayor, his voice calm and professional, despite the absolute chaos he just escaped. The official looks nervous, realizing the boy he once ignored is now the most dangerous man in the city. With no warning, he helps a wounded man. In a heartbeat, he spots a young girl with blue hair in the crowd. It's Nikki, and alive, but still looking very weak today. In a flash, he carries her over to Nakia, reuniting the two sisters in the middle of the cheering and grateful crowd. The alchemist breaks down in tears of joy, her gratitude toward Raoul finally becoming absolute and unshakable. Right then and there, he watches them from afar. The people hail him as a savior, unaware that every single move he makes is part of a plan. A shadow of unease remains. Without thinking, he looks at his reflection and realizes that following the system's path will only lead him back to ruin. Right then and there, he decides to tear up the script and forge a future that the developers never intended him to reach. The celebration lasts all night. The mayor hands over a heavy bag of gold, hoping it's enough to keep the young lord satisfied. Raoul accepts the payment with a polite nod, but he's already thinking about the much larger rewards he'll take. For the briefest moment, he sits across from the official, the steam from his tea rising between them like a thick gray veil. The mayor is visibly sweating. In the confusion, he reminds the man that the city guards are technically useless outside the walls without his personal and expert help. The official stammers through a series of weak apologies, trying to save face in front of his aristocratic peers. Raoul puts the man at ease with a calculated smile, knowing he now has him exactly where he needs him. In a split second, he requests access to the library. The official is more than happy to agree, thinking a few old books are a small price for this alliance. The mayor happily agrees, thinking it a cheap price to pay. Raoul floats down from the shelves. Scanning the titles, his eyes light up as he finds the forbidden knowledge he's been hunting for his entire life. The system pings, asking if he's ready to learn a B-rank skill that would take most players years to master. Without missing a beat, he opens the glowing book, the ancient symbols flowing into his mind like a river of data and power. On the spot, he stands in the center of the archive, feeling the potential power of the thousands of books surrounding him now. A faint light catches him. Without thinking, he pulls out the Quirkus meditation method, an S-rank ability that only the luckiest players would ever even find. A grin of pure triumph. Swirls of blue energy envelop his body as the legendary skill settles into his soul, permanently boosting his capacity today. His spiritual power issues are solved. On pure instinct, he tests the new energy flow, watching as blue flames dance across his palms with perfect and effortless control. The game is finally changing. No time wasted, he walks out of the library. Dressed in casual gear, he enters the training room to check the progress of his physical body's growth today. Looking at his stats, he's satisfied to see that his growth is outpacing even his own extremely high expectations. At level 55, his stats have soared past 65, making him a beginner sword expert and an intermediate telekineticist. The Regnator is officially unlocked. In one smooth motion, he looks at the golden bracelet on his wrist, knowing the destructive power he can now call upon at will. The armor is still partially sealed, but it's already more powerful than anything the other rival guilds possess. A new unique trait emerges. His eyes burn gold. Without thinking, he won't be a puppet. The scene cuts to the library the next morning as he knocks on the door of the small infirmary. On reflex, he finds Nakia hovering over her sister, her face showing the strain of the last few days of worry. On the spot, she drops to her knees. A beat later, he looks down at Nikki, whose breathing is still shallow, and her skin still a deathly pale white today. Using his analytical eye, he peers into the girl's status, uncovering a potential that makes even his own stats look small. The system confirms she has SS rank potential, but the manipularia is slowly draining the life from her body. Without delay, he begins drafting new documents. In a flash, he returns to the alchemist. In the confusion, she stands up in a hurry. In one smooth motion, he informs her that regular divine healing won't work on this specific type of magical blood disease she has. Out of nowhere, he slides a pardon certificate across the table, an official document that completely erases her criminal past forever. Nakia stares in disbelief, realizing he just spent a literal fortune to buy her a second chance at life here. Without missing a beat, she shows him the scars. For a moment, she tells him the heartbreaking story of the disease that took her family, leaving her with only one goal: saving Nikki. Her breach of the alchemical taboos led to her being hunted and cast out, branded a criminal for trying to save her. No time wasted, she stares at the glowing potion he offers, her eyes widening as she realizes he actually found the cure. A surge of mana erupts from her as she drinks, the ancient medicine purging the darkness from her veins instantly. Her stats update, revealing her true rank as an S-class talent who has finally been reborn after 5 long years. Straight away, she bows low, her voice steady as she swears her life and her magic to his name forevermore. Just like that, he hands her a final set of papers, the missing pieces of the research she started so long ago. For the briefest moment, he admits the notes are incomplete, but he knows that her genius mind is the only thing that can finish it. "Save your sister," he orders, his voice firm as he steps toward the door to leave her to it. In one smooth motion, she clutches the research tight. In a split second, he leaves her to work. In a split second, he smiles to himself, knowing that Nakia herself is the legendary alchemist from the future he just mentioned today. By handing her her own future work, he's accelerated her growth by a decade, securing a master-tier crafter for himself. With calm precision, he checks his mental timeline. The next destination is Turium, the capital city famously known among veterans as the Grave of Swords in his past. The massive white stone gates of the capital loom over them as they finally arrive at the city edge. The streets are completely packed. Moments later, he leads the procession toward the noble district, expecting the warm welcome that a high military family always deserves. A guard halts the group. The man claims he've never heard of an Ashton manor, his voice full of pure and unearned condescension today. Raoul's jaw sets as he realizes that in this timeline, someone has been systematically erasing his family's rightful influence. Without missing a beat, he sends Bernard to the registry office. The butler returns with a grim expression, reporting that the family manor is now officially registered under Baron Gander's name. Without delay, they arrive at the front gates only to find a line of private guards blocking the path to his home. The captain refuses them entry. Philip grabs the man by the throat and demands that he summon his master before things get much more violent. The guards turn and run. The estate is even more massive than he remembered, a sprawling stone complex built using his family's hard-earned wealth. Raoul hears the sound of laughter and loud music drifting from the back gardens where a party is happening. See, Baron Gander walks out with a smug grin, looking like a man who thinks he's already won the lottery. The Baron tries to play it off as a family gathering, calling Raoul his dear nephew with fake warmth. "Just call me Uncle Gander." Raoul doesn't flinch, asking why a mere servant has the nerve to act like the lord of his house. Out of nowhere, he turns to his head knight, demanding a reminder on who is actually allowed to speak to him as equals. With icy calm, he looks over the beautiful estate that belongs to his father, now being used as a playground for a minor noble. The Baron's fake smile starts to twitch as he realizes the boy isn't going to be easy to manipulate today. Raoul picks up an invitation. In a heartbeat, he looks down from his horse, his eyes like ice as he notices his family's crest is nowhere to be seen. The man claims the party is necessary to keep up appearances, but his greedy eyes tell a different story. The Baron flinches in fear. Before anyone reacts, he drops the polite act. Raoul scans the crowd of partygoers, his patience finally hitting zero as he prepares to reclaim his family home. Just like that, he hands over a formal legal notice, giving the Baron exactly 1 hour to get every single person out. Gander screams in pure fury. The Knights of House Ashton draw their swords in a perfect, synchronized movement that silences the entire garden at once. The Baron points a trembling finger, but he quickly realizes he's outmatched by the veteran soldiers standing before him. On reflex, they ride straight through the center of the event, the heavy horses scattering the wealthy guests in every direction. With quiet control, he kicks the front doors. "Get out, every one of you." The music stops with a screech as the wealthy intruders stare at the armed knights who have just reclaimed it. Philip stands ready for blood. The Baron realizes he's finished. Raoul points toward the gate, his expression showing that he isn't interested in listening to any more of Gander's lies. The villain grits his teeth. The disgraced family is forced to grab their things and walk out of the manor under the knight's watchful eyes. The team watches the retreat, the manor finally falling into a silence that it hasn't known in many long years. In an instant, they leave in total disgrace. Philip asks why they weren't just executed on the spot for their blatant and disgusting theft of family assets. Raoul explains that he needs this place as a base of operations, and a bloodbath would only bring unwanted eyes. The knights share a laugh. Raoul smiles at his team. The moment of peace is shattered as the Baron's son lunges from the shadows with a dagger in his hand. The weight of the future hangs heavy. Bernard steps forward with absolute confidence, confirming that gathering high-level intel is a specialty he's mastered over many years of service. Steel rings out through the practice hall as a secret training session begins under the cover of night. One more time, the young lord pushes his physical vessel to match the speed of his past memories. Swords dance through the air like living things, guided by a psychic will that seems to ignore the very laws of physics. These blades quiver with mana. Staggering back, the servant struggles to keep pace with a master whose combat prowess is evolving at a frightening speed. Two blades orbit the kid with lethal precision, proving that his telekinesis is finally reaching a terrifying new peak. Being talented doesn't even begin to describe it, since he's becoming a versatile monster at a record-breaking pace. Martial arts are the next focus for our boy, because psychic powers alone won't be enough to survive the coming war. Combat techniques come next. Every step across the sand is a calculation, blending various techniques into a singular and deadly style. A sudden shift in the air catches the servant off guard as he senses uninvited guests approaching the estate. A sharp glint enters Raoul's eyes as the true master of the house prepares to receive his visitors. Looking toward his lord, the butler asks if they should proceed with the preparations made the night before. A dark grin spreads wide. Cold sweat beads on the servant's brow, knowing that expression usually precedes a total disaster for anyone standing in the way. Every foolish attempt by the greedy Baron is about to be dismantled with surgical precision. Outside, a sea of arrogant faces marches toward the entrance, ready to claim what isn't theirs. The grand doors swing open. Tension snaps like a bowstring as the intruders realize they aren't facing a weakling, but a predator waiting in his own den. Some of these knights radiate a formidable pressure, proving they aren't just here for show. The knight captain watches his lord carefully, wondering if the kid truly has a plan for this many hostiles. The Baron smirks from the center of the room, convinced that the young fool has fallen headfirst into his pathetic trap. It's time to settle things. Whispers ripple through the crowd as the relatives begin to realize something is very wrong with the atmosphere. These people have been treating the Count's treasury like their own personal bank account for far too long. Greed flashes in their eyes, unaware that their secret financial source has officially dried up. Using the Count's office for a private party was a massive error in judgment, and now it is time for everyone to pay. Consequences are coming fast. The goons only know how to put on airs, remaining blissfully ignorant of the trouble they've summoned. Meanwhile, Baron Gander stands with arms crossed, already imagining how he'll use the family seal for himself. The heir descends the grand staircase with a cold, aristocratic grace that silences the entire room. Murmurs fill the hall as the guests realize the 15-year-old before them looks like a seasoned commander of men. In one smooth motion, he stops at the base. A simple question cuts through the noise, asking if they've all gathered here to defend a thief. The Baron points a shaking finger, demanding an apology for the outrageous actions of his nephew. This matters later as the young lord prepares to explain exactly how much his uncle has failed as a steward. Screaming won't help him now. Standing firm against the verbal assault, the kid looks more like a king than a third son. The relatives shout in defiance, offended that anyone would dare to look down on their greed. Reflexes take over. They can't believe the Count handed over such authority to someone they consider a mere brat. The fucking Baron maintains his arrogant smirk, hiding his growing fear behind a wall of armored guards who stand ready for blood. Clamor fills the air as the relatives realize their comfortable lifestyle is being threatened by a teenager. Gold light flares out. The relatives surge forward, their faces twisted with a mix of indignation and raw panic that they can no longer hide. Among the crowd, he spots specialized enforcers meant to keep the relatives in line. Behind the pillars, he sees the real threats hiding in the shadows. Graham stands as scarred muscle. Dealing with a warrior from a family stronger than the Ashtons is going to be a massive headache. The red-haired man watches the confrontation with the bored detachment of someone who has already won the entire game. Raphael is identified as a beginner sword expert, but his family name alone makes him a walking problem for everyone involved. With quiet control, he's likely here because of the previous incident. But he won't be able to hide his intentions for long. A deadly spark ignites in the young lord's gaze as he identifies the true culprits behind the chaos. These are the people who will lead the charge in betraying the family the second things go sideways for the house. This matters later because the man watching from the back radiates the cold aura of a professional killer. This older cousin is a man known for his aggression and his willingness to use violence for power. Driven by deep-seated jealousy, the Viscount stands ready to tear down everything his brother built. In his past life, these very men resorted to murder just to settle their petty noble disputes over coin and land. Insecurity is a dangerous motivator. With no warning, he remembers a time when the Ashtons were brought to their knees by these very vultures. The memory of a broken family sits heavy on his mind as he prepares to rewrite history. The one-eyed man sneers. Betrayal isn't just a possibility here. It's a certainty that he has already accounted for in his master plan. Shadows loomed over the territory 15 years ago, and he has no intention of letting that darkness return to his home. Every man in the room is a potential traitor, and his analytical eye sees through every lie they tell. The clamor of the relatives reaches a fever pitch as they try to scream over the young lord. This time, he is going to make them painfully aware that choosing the Baron was the most fatal mistake of their lives. The knight gives a nod. Steel clangs as a knight steps forward, but Raoul remains perfectly still in the face of the threat. Clang. The sound of metal hitting stone echoes through the hall as the knights take their final positions. Bernard and Piers are ordered to distribute the booklets that contain the Baron's death warrant. A servant moves through the crowd, handing out the detailed records of every coin stolen from the estate. Confusion turns into pale-faced terror as the relatives flip through the undeniable evidence of embezzlement. The audit is finished now. Hands shake as they read the investigation documents that list every secret deal and stolen fund. The Baron quivers with rage, realizing his carefully hidden ledgers have been fully exposed to the public. How did the kid compile this? A cold smile touches the kid's lips as he invites the Baron to finally have a proper discussion about the finances. The records show 200 squires were supposedly trained for free, but the money is gone. When asked where the men are, the Baron can only stammer about them running back to the countryside. A piercing glare fixes on the older man, calling out the obvious lie that 200 men just vanished into thin air. The reputation of the house was used as a shield for theft, and the shield is now shattered for all to see. The heir turns the page. Investigation reveals that the expensive birthday gifts were actually cheap replicas worth next to nothing in the real world. 6 replica swords glow in the light, a physical reminder of the Baron's pathetic greed. 100 C-rank mercenaries were supposedly hired for security, yet the manor is guarded by absolute trash. With icy calm, he hopes the 20 goons standing in the back aren't all the Baron has to show for his budget. Gold coins rain down as he lists the frequent and frivolous parties hosted in the main building. The booklet slams shut. Using his analytical eye, Raoul reveals how he and Piers secretly raided the Baron's actual living quarters during the night. Bernard spent the night organizing the findings into these undeniable booklets of betrayal. The next second, he gestures toward the crowd, letting the weight of the evidence sink into their greedy hearts. A collective gasp ripples through the relatives as they realize the Baron was stealing from them too. Silence fills the massive hall. Rings clatter together as the Baron clenches his hands, his facade of nobility completely gone for the first time. Instinctively, he starts to clap with a frantic, mocking energy, accusing the Count of being far too cunning. A weary sigh escapes the young lord, knowing the cornered rat is finally ready to bite after being exposed. The Baron grabs the book. With a roar of defiance, the older man holds the evidence high as if it could still save him from his crimes. No pause. He points at the gathered nobles, accusing the Ashton family of orchestrating a political hit on his reputation. Fabricated reports reports and pre-made agendas are the Baron's only defense against the cold, hard truth. No warning at all, he screams that this is just a scheme to remove him and control the relatives in the capital. The hall erupts into a shout as the relatives try to justify their own involvement in the massive theft. On raw instinct, they yell that the Ashton family is just trying to manipulate them into accepting a reduced budget. Fists are raised in the air as the greedy nobles realize their free ride is officially over. The Baron turns to enforcers. Sir Jake is ordered to check the document as the young lord maintains his calm in the face of steel. Their demands are read aloud, starting with the joint ownership of the capital manor. Philip looks at the list of demands with a face that says he's about to start a war right now. The audacity to ask for secret family sword techniques sends a surge of anger through the loyal knight. Without even blinking, he shouts that they've lost their minds, partying with money earned from the blood of real warriors. Philip crumbles the demand list in his gauntleted hand, his patience for these bastards at zero. The Baron reaches into his vest and draws a dagger with a sharp sound that catches the light of the chandeliers above. Relative after relative draws their steel, turning the grand hall into a lethal choke point for everyone involved in this dispute. His own knights form a wall of iron around their lord, their expressions cold and ready. The sudden dun of magical pressure fills the room as the standoff reaches its breaking point. Raoul tosses the crumpled paper aside, his voice level as he tells Sir Jake that he's seen enough. The uncle trembles with rage. Those three before him are elite members of the Order of the Golden Bear, the best in the county. A massive spectral bear manifests behind the knights, its blue aura shaking the very foundation of the hall. The Baron is told that unless he offers his head and an apology, his behavior won't be condoned. He hesitates. Raoul scoffs at the demand for an apology, a small puff of air escaping his lips in amusement. He stomps forward, the impact cracking the floor tiles and silencing the remaining murmurs. The legendary sword is drawn. The blade hums with a blue energy that pulses like a heartbeat in the dim and dusty hall. No time to waste, he stands as a pillar of golden and blue power, looking down on the Baron with absolute contempt. The Baron twitches as the floor beneath his feet begins to crack from the sheer pressure. Unshaken, the master asks what it is the older man truly wants from this fight. Rumors claimed the third son was a swordless weakling, but the Baron realizes how wrong he was. In the same breath, he screams that Raoul won't be able to leave the room until the seal is stamped on the document. The massive doors slam shut behind them, locked tight by the Baron's personal guards. A dark, confident grin splits the boy's face as he raises his sword into a starting stance. The air screams with steel. The relatives begin to panic, realizing they are fucking about to engage in a sword fight with the Ashtons. The Baron tisks at their cowardice, telling them they are already too deep in this mess to run away. Raoul asks if they are finally done settling things, his eyes locked on his uncle's throat. The Baron roars for assault. No hesitation, he points his dagger forward, signaling for his hundreds of soldiers to launch their attack on the boy. Does he truly believe the Golden Bear Knights can withstand an entire army in such a small space? A secret weapon is mentioned as a last resort, something the Baron is holding back in the shadows. The kid notices the other factions are merely watching, waiting to see who the strongest hunter is. In one clean step, he asks if he's supposed to be intimidated by a group of losers who abandoned the way of the sword. The Baron grabs the crest. He screams for an apology for being framed, his voice cracking from the strain of his own lies. Lord Raoul de Ashton is officially challenged to a proof of kinship duel in front of all witnesses. The golden crest clangs as it hits the floor between the two combatants, marking the start of the trial. Whispers fill the room about the Baron invoking a once-in-a-lifetime right to a family duel. The air stands perfectly still. For a second, he mocks his uncle, suggesting it would be less humiliating to surrender the seal in a fair fight. The Baron's teeth grit so hard they might snap as he glares at his nephew's mocking smile. A twist-fucking-tid grin returns to the Baron's face as he realizes the brat is arrogant enough to accept family members only. The rules of the kinship duel ensure that no outside knights can interfere. These terms are clearly unfair. On raw instinct, he asks what he will gain if he wins, since the Baron already expects him to sign the document. If I win, I'll claim every manor belonging to the relatives who signed that shitty agreement. A collective gasp hits the hall as the relatives realize their homes are now on the gambling table. The Baron wonders what the kid is thinking, assuming he should be trying to win allies instead of enemies. The challenge is accepted now. A sudden quest window flashes in his vision, confirming that the proof of kinship trial has begun. Philip expresses his concern about unforeseen variables, but Raoul just gives him a reassuring smirk. This duel is merely a formality to justify the absolute destruction of the Baron's power. The Baron announces they have a distinguished guest to oversee the validity of the combat. A tall man steps forward. Gasps follow the reveal of Raphael, the fourth son of the powerful Randall family. He claims he was merely invited to say hello, but his smirk says he's here for the carnage. Representatives of each family line up, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a blade. Raoul scans the field, seeing nothing but trash and slightly less trash waiting to be folded. Lord Aaron steps out now. Steps. The first representative of the Gander line prepares to make his move in the name of his father. Aaron mocks the kid for winning a minor contest in the countryside, promising to make him beg for mercy. "You're dead meat, you bastard." The brute leaps into the air with a roar of pure rage. Blue light flares in Raoul's eye as he tracks the predictable movement of his foolish attacker before delivering a crushing impact. The judge raises a hand. Aaron lies in a heap on the floor, foam at his mouth after being dropped by a single, casual strike. The crowd stares with mouths wide open, unable to comprehend the speed of the boy's movement. Baron Gander quivers with rage, tisking at his son for being a fool and squandering the opportunity. The kid asks for another. The red-haired Randall student steps forward, his eyes burning with a competitive fire. Baron Caspi is announced as the second representative, moving with the grace of a trained killer. Clang! The sound of steel on steel rings through the hall as the second round ignites. Caspi's muscles throb with mana as he tries to overpower the kid's solid foundation. For a split second, they clash repeatedly in a blur of sparks and blue light, the speed far beyond anyone's expectations. A heavy blade misses wide. Caspi's eyes glow with a desperate light, realizing he's being pushed to his absolute limit. The elite noble roars as he charges forward, his pride refusing to let him lose to a teenager. A massive explosion of mana shakes the hall as their powers collide head-on. Skreek. Metal groans as Raoul locks blades with his dumbass opponent, his face a mask of cold determination. The collision sends a shockwave through the room, forcing the onlookers to shield their eyes. He wonders why Caspi is using such mediocre techniques when he was supposed to be a master. The noble tries to regain his composure, his cape flapping in the wind generated by their fight. Endurance is fading fast now. Clang, clang. Each strike from Raoul is heavier than the last, driving the older man into the floor. Metal clinks as the boy parries a desperate thrust, his eyes never leaving Caspi's face. The chatter turns to whispers. Raoul dismisses them all as a bunch of losers who abandoned the way of the sword for soft lives. He grips his hilt and steps into the finishing stance, his aura turning the air into a physical weight. You could have pushed past your limit if you didn't spend so much time dabbling in weak styles. Swoosh. Caspi lunges with a final, desperate roar, but he's already walking into a trap. A massive spectral wolf of blue wind rips through the air toward the terrified noble. The spirit beast opens its jaws, engulfing the attacker in a whirlwind of razor-sharp mana. The roar of the wolf drowns out every other sound in the hall as the technique reaches its peak. The crowd erupts in awe. In the middle of the chaos, he stands perfectly calm as the blue energy fades, his target lying broken on the stairs. One final glance at his fallen foe confirms that the difference in their talent is an unbridgeable gap. Slash. The air itself seems to be cut as he finishes the move with a sharp flick of his wrist. Caspi flops onto the ground, defeated by a technique he didn't even have time to understand. The young lord stands alone in the center of the hall, his shadow stretching toward the Baron. "It isn't about the type of swordsmanship you've learned, uncle. It's about how well you've mastered it." The Baron raises his hand, his face purple with rage as he prepares to send in his final fighter. A thin line appears now. Swoosh. Raoul moves with a diagonal stab, his speed making him look like a phantom in the noble's eyes. In a flash, he switches to the 8th form of Bear Crush, a horizontal slash that catches the douchebag opponent off guard. The opponent grunts as a twisting stab nearly takes him out, his defenses failing at every turn. In one clean motion, he's changing techniques too fast for anyone in the room to react or even track. The final representative of the Gander House is sent flying backward, his weapon shattered into pieces, in one smooth motion. Yet he can't believe a mere brat can chain moves together with such flawless, deadly efficiency. Most people link together basic forms to create variability, but Raoul is playing a different game. A clean slice opens him. The point of the blade rests against the noble's throat, signaling the absolute end of the duel. "Do you still think the Ashton family's techniques aren't sufficient, Baron?" Thud. The challenger falls to his knees. His dynamic vision and judgment proved to be worthless. He lies face down on the stone floor, the pride of the Gander family officially in the dirt. A triumphant dun echoes through the hall as Raoul raises his fist, his authority now absolute. The Baron's eyes bulge out as he realizes the outcome he expected has been completely inverted. For a heartbeat, he smirks at his uncle. The red-haired Randall heir smiles, finding the sight of the Ashtons tearing each other apart quite amusing. No second thoughts. He notes that the Baron's eldest son has supposedly surpassed his limits, but it won't matter. A massive knight in blue armor steps into the light, his aura heavy and bloodstained. Golden power flares out now. The new bastard opponent warns the kid to give up, while he still has the chance to walk away. Whoosh! A massive mana blade ignites in the knight's hand, the blue fire licking the air around him. In a flash, he stands ready, his eyes flashing with the calculated gaze of a hunter watching his prey. The golden light intensifies, proving that the young lord has been hiding his true strength until now. The knight lunges with speed. Flash! Raoul meets the attack with a strike so fast the air itself seems to ignite around the blades. Stomp! He pivots his weight with a heavy impact, planting his feet to absorb the coming blow. Dash! He disappears from sight for a split second, moving faster than the human eye can follow. Clang! The two powerful warriors trade blows, the sound of the impact deafening the onlookers. A brilliant white light erupts from the center of the clash, blinding everyone in the hall. Our boy emerges focused now. Clank! He uses 4 telekinetic swords to pin his scumbag opponent, the blades locking the giant in place. The Blue Knight's mana starts to flicker, his energy pool rapidly draining under the pressure. A final overhead strike is delivered with the full weight of psychic power behind it. Skid. The knight is driven back across the room, his armor groaning and his defense shattered. The blade stops inches away. Like it was Tuesday, he notes with a clench of his jaw that his douchebag opponent wasn't even a real mana blade user. You're just another fraud, or should I say, another lapdog of the Empire? Lift. He raises his sword high, the golden light of the hall catching the edge of the steel. Shatter. The final blow descends, breaking the knight's pride and his position in a single strike. Raoul's eyes burn fiercely now. Pow! He delivers a final impact that sends the champion tumbling across the polished stone. Whip. He holds out his hand, the blue energy of his mana slowly dissipating into the air. Wham! The champion crashes into the wall with enough force to bring down the tapestries. He lies motionless in the rubble, a blood stain spreading across his noble blue uniform. Brushing off his shoulder now, the judge officially declares Lord Raoul the winner, and the room falls into a deathly quiet. Step by step, the young master walks back to his position, the crowd parting like the sea. Philip bows deeply, acknowledging the terrifying growth of his young lord's power. Sir Philip is ordered to detain everyone he just defeated. They likely carry the imperial mark. A spare sword is handed over by the butler, because one blade isn't enough for what's coming. In the middle of the chaos, he glares at his uncle. The older man sweats as he looks at his fallen son, unable to believe a brat could do this. In one breath, he screams that it's absurd, accusing the kid of cheating through some underhanded trick. Silence. He silences the Baron with a single word, his presence filling the entire hall. The Baron points a trembling hand, ordering his remaining goons to seize the family seal by force. The relatives surge forward with daggers and rapiers, fueled by greed and the fear of losing their wealth. A subtle nod is given. His knights draw their steel with a synchronized shing, ready to entertain the trash for a while. In the blink of an eye, he stands calmly in the eye of the storm, a small, knowing smile on his face. Shing. A blade is drawn in one smooth motion, the kid looking bored with the upcoming slaughter. The hall erupts into a melee as the loyal Ashton knights engage the relatives' mercenaries. Raoul scratches his head, feigning a bit of surprise that they actually had the guts to attack. The manor guards rush in, but they are quickly intercepted by his elite Order of the Golden Bear. Steel on steel rings out. Relative and guard alike are folded in the hallway, proving they never stood a chance. The Baron stares in horror as his army is dismantled by a handful of superior warriors. You filthy punks. A loyal knight blocks a strike, refusing to let them lay a finger on Raoul. New information is discovered now. The Baron screams that they are ungrateful wretches, claiming he fed and housed them for years. Don't make us laugh, you scoundrel. The servants turn on their corrupt master at last. It turns out the Academy cadets were only there because of the Count's generous scholarship. Back to the quiet hallways of the Royal Academy, far from the manor's violence. Gander's embezzlement scheme is fully exposed, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. Raoul checks his system screen, noting that everything is following the plan he laid out. For one beat, he asks his knight what they should do next. So his smile bright and entirely too perfect. The Baron looks around the hall, realizing his secret weapon is nowhere to be found. The massive doors fly open. Stomp. A heavy boot crushes the hope out of the nearest guard as a new figure enters. A massive, shirtless warrior walks in with a greatsword resting casually on his shoulder. The crowd murmurs in terror at the arrival of Dylan, the legendary heir to the Ashtons. The Baron's eyes go wide, realizing the family's strongest motherfucking monster has finally arrived to finish him. An entire army of Golden Bear Knights marches in behind Dylan, their armor gleaming in the light. One relative brandishes a dagger. Dylan's eyes flare with a cold blue fire as he scans the room for any remaining resistance. Just for a moment, he flexes his mountain-sized muscles. It's the sheer pressure of his presence making the guards drop their weapons. Raoul looks up at his older brother, his plan working even better than the link forum suggested. The giant buries his sword. Grab. He pulls his little brother into a crushing hug, a wide, prideful grin on his face. You little rascal, Dylan yells with laughter, asking if anyone has been bullying his favorite sibling. Whoosh! He He lifts the boy off the ground like a toy, the sheer power difference between them clear. "Stop! I'm getting dizzy now." Dylan poses for the terrified relatives, telling them they should try building up some real muscles. A beat later, he bulges his bicep with a confident smirk, enjoying the absolute silence of his enemies. The eldest son laughs hard. Ruffle. He pats Raoul's head with a hand the size of a dinner plate, truly proud of the kid. Glare. Dylan looks toward the Randall son, his gaze turning from warm to lethal in an instant. Chills run down the spines of everyone who dared to draw a weapon in the Ashton estate. For a split second, he grabs his massive sword again, his expression daring anyone to make another move, dealing with every scoundrel now. The vice captain and 25 intermediate experts stand behind Dylan, ready to wipe out the room. Baron Gander stares at the floor, knowing at this point there is absolutely nothing he can do. House Randall is spotted hiding in the corner, his previous arrogance replaced by pure terror. The secret weapon stays silent. Dylan stands tall, his blood-stained cape a reminder of what happens to those who cross him. In a split second, he spots the Randall boy trying to slip away and calls him out in front of everyone. Grab. Dylan catches him by the shoulder, his grip likely strong enough to crush bone through armor. "I haven't seen you in years, but you haven't changed a bit. Which son were you again?" The giant looms over him. He dismisses the Randall heir with a casual pat on the shoulder that sends the guy reeling. "I'd tell your eldest brother to reach out if he ever wants a real spar again, all right?" The red-haired noble flees as fast as his legs will carry him out of the manor. The Baron flinches back now. The giant gives a predatory grin, asking where the document is that needs the family seal. Later that night, the lights of the capital flicker as a new power dynamic is established. Raoul and Dylan sit together in the quiet office, the day's violence finally behind them. "How did reinforcement arrive fast?" Dylan laughs loudly, tossing his head back with the confidence of a man who owns the city. "You asked for reinforcements, so this was the least I could do for my little brother." Raoul thinks back to the letter he sent, realized that he barely gave Dylan any time to prepare. Reinforcements were well worth it. It cost at least 3,000 gold to bring that many experts through the portal, but it was worth it. Raoul clenches his fist under the table, touched by the overwhelming support from his family. Dylan explains that he's going to use this opportunity to cast out every parasite in the house. "Our finances have been strained long enough because we let those old fools get away with too much. No violence will be needed." Ruffle. Dylan pats his brother's head again, telling him he's really proud of the work he did. In one breath, he pulls the kid into another bear hug, nearly crushing the breath out of him with pure affection. For a quick second, he shakes with laughter as Raoul protests, claiming he's an adult and should be treated like one. Dylan checks the kinship proof. Gasp. Raoul realizes that the estates of all 27 greedy relatives are now under his personal possession. Dylan laughs, telling him he should carry himself with even more pride after earning such a haul. Raoul holds the ledger with a bright smile, his eyes sparkling with the thrill of victory. One final favor for tonight. The value of this document changes depending on who holds it, and he wants to make the most of it. "See you at the training grounds tomorrow morning. I've got something incredible to teach you." Pop. Dylan flexes so hard his shirt buttons fly across the room, much to Raoul's total embarrassment. He collapses back on the sofa. Slump. Raoul lies exhausted on the grass the next morning. The hellish training proving to be no joke. Moving to the Royal Academy. In the middle of the chaos, he waves goodbye to his entourage, promising to only do just enough to pass the entrance exams. Dylan sits back with a knowing smile, watching his brother step toward his new destiny. The Royal Academy is just an bullshit excuse to get away from home and start building his own empire. Dealing with a bunch of teenagers will be exhausting, so he plans to stay as quiet as possible. A polished boot touches down. Bustle. Thousands of students crowd the plaza, making it look more like a festival than an enrollment. Before anyone can react, he walks through the sea of nobles, his commanding presence making several students turn their heads. Something is different. He doesn't remember the academy being this crowded in the original plot. Powerful aura sensed nearby now. Done. Banners fly high as the admission ceremony officially begins in the main assembly hall. Nina Sir Philip notes that direct heirs from the 5 great military families are all enrolled this year. Raoul realizes he's out of touch. In a snap, he asks Dylan if he knows what's going on, but his brother just gives him a mischievous wink. Groan. A bad feeling washes over him as he realizes his plan to blend in quietly is already in trouble. With no warning, he orders Sir Jake and Piers to gather information while he tries to find his assigned seat. The students are talented now. His attention is snapped back as the ceremony announcer calls for order in the massive hall. Startled, the introduction of the new vice principal sends a shockwave through the entire audience. A legendary figure steps out. That's Alfredo Gray, an 8th-tier archmage and one of the 3 sages of the entire continent. No one can surpass him in illusion magic. And he's also considered the master of alchemists. A dark figure in a heavy cloak leans on his staff, his presence radiating radiating an ancient, heavy mana. It's hard to believe a legendary hermit like him has taken a job at a mere royal academy. This is completely different from the plot. Alfredo wasn't supposed to appear for another few years. Principal Spence announces that the placement test curriculum has been completely adjusted this year. Digital notice shows a reward. A new scenario quest pops up, tasking him with achieving first place in the placement exam. Ranking within the top 60 is enough for Class S, but the extra rewards are too tempting to pass up. The real question is whether he should be satisfied with mediocrity or showcase his true skills. Our top student privileges include full library access and a personal training center with a magic circle. Right then and there, he smiles broadly, realizing that these rewards will save him years of grinding in the real world. Raiding high dungeons is better. An illusion dragon roars in a holographic field, demonstrating the high-level features of the magic circle. Without delay, he stares at a glowing skill book in his mind, knowing the academy holds several hidden pieces of power. This is his chance to save time and catapult himself to the top of the world ranking. Proceed to the square now. Someone shouts from across the plaza, their voice arrogant and entirely too loud for the occasion. A red-haired noble in a feathered hat poses for the crowd, radiating pure main character energy. Raoul scans him with his analytical eye, recognizing another arrogant member of the Randall line. This dude points and screams. Moments later, he glares back, his patience with the Randall family already wearing thin after the manor incident. Who the hell are you? Get out of my way! The redhead's face turns a bright, angry purple. You arrogant bastard! I'll make sure you understand your place before the sun goes down. Raoul turns his back on the screaming boy, dismissing him with a single cold glance. Factions cheer in the stands. The Templeton students are already celebrating, convinced their representative Dalton will take the top spot. Another banner flies high for Lord Jameson, the McNeil family's personal pride and joy. Lord Caleb is hailed as the new rising star of the Randalls, his fans shouting his name until they're hoarse. Dylan looks at the crowd with a mix of amusement and second-hand embarrassment for the other nobles. I can't wait to see their shocked faces when the final scores are posted on the board. A group of fans holds up a sign for Raoul, their nervous energy a stark contrast to the other families. Sir Jake departs for crowds. He groans as he looks at the list of future sword masters currently enrolled as mere teenagers. Grip. He clenches his teeth, deciding that he won't let any of these kids take his first place spot. Round 1 is a standard written exam. The hall filled with the scratching of hundreds of pens, hunching over their desks now. Flash. Raoul uses his system interface to pull up all the answers from the Link Forum database. The instructor directs the first group toward the gymnasium for the physical ability test. Einer mana pool is dampened now. Zap. Blue sparks fly as students realize a mana suppression field is covering the entire testing area. You won't be able to use your magic here. This is a pure test of your basic physical capabilities. Without missing a beat, he stares at a simple punching machine, unimpressed by the Academy's choice of testing equipment. Cadet winds up a punch. Smack. The impact is loud, but the machine barely moves from its starting position. Beep. A score of 1,418 flashes on the board, a solid average for a first-year student. Raoul notes that anything between 1,000 and 1,500 seems to be the baseline for this group. Muscular student prepares strike now. On gut instinct, he delivers a heavy blow that makes the entire platform rumble under his feet. The crowd cheers as a high score of 2,250 points appears on the digital readout. Top students are mid-tier. Suddenly, he clenches his fist and steps into line, his eyes glowing with a faint, dangerous light. Another student strikes the machine, but the numbers don't even break the 1,000-point mark. The faculty members watch from above. Their expressions range from bored to mildly intrigued. Vice Principal Gray chats with his colleagues, his eyes never leaving the field of young prospects. Blue-haired man smiles wide. Caleb Randall steps up to the machine with a swagger that screams for a reality check. Swing. He winds up a punch that carries the weight of his entire family's reputation. Pow. The impact creates a localized shockwave that sends dust flying from the gym floor. 3,005 is a massive score. Caleb flexes for his fans, convinced that he has already secured the first place position. Next challenger hits with energy. Thwack. The impact is solid and heavy, but the machine holds firm under the assault. The crowd roars as a score of 3,500 points is announced for the McNeil family heir. Principal Spence applauds politely, noting that the talent this year is exceptionally high across the board. Dalton Templeton steps out now. Gasp. The room goes silent as they realize Dalton is hitting the machine machine with only one arm. Bam! He strikes the machine with a casual backhanded blow that sounds like a cannon shot. Absolute confidence from this guy. The score flashes 3008, narrowly edging out Caleb despite the lack of effort. An instructor chuckles, remarking that the kid didn't even want to attend the academy in the first place. Dalton remains stoic now. Dylan watches from the stands, his arms crossed as he waits for his brother to finally take the stage. Startled, the announcer calls Raoul's name, and the entire gym turns to look at the Ashton runt. Caleb screams in frustration from the side, already planning how he'll humiliate the boy later. In the confusion, he points and shouts that there's nothing left for a bumpkin to learn at such a prestigious academy. Dylan gives a casual gesture, knowing his brother is about to rewrite the school's history. Raoul watches the machine with a bored expression, his analytical eye calculating the exact force needed. Caleb is held back. The young lord steps up to the plate, his shaggy blonde hair catching the gym's artificial light. Every eye in the room is fixed on the jewel of the Ashtons as he takes his starting stance. Dylan smiles to himself, eager to see the shocked faces of the arrogant nobles in just a few seconds. Perfectly still before machine now. He throws a punch so fast that half the audience doesn't even see his arm move. The impact creates a thunderous boom that rattles the windows and the nerves of everyone present. Faculty members lunge forward. Imagine what he could do with just one more year of growth under his belt in this world. Faint mist evaporates now. The faculty erupts into a cheer, unable to contain their excitement at finding a once-in-a-century genius. He throws a second punch, this one even more powerful than the first, the air screaming in its wake. Dylan clenches his fist with a prideful grin, watching his brother dominate the entire hall. Score of 3,615 is staggering. In the blink of an eye, he stands in the center of the silent gym, a faint blue aura still clinging to his noble uniform. Everything went exactly according to plan. He gave them just enough to be impressed, but not terrified. Murmurs follow him out. Right at that moment, he tries to act nonchalant as he rejoins his group, wiping a single bead of sweat from his forehead. The other students flinch as he sits down, realized they are in the presence of a true monster. Faking the struggle worked well. Wiping his brow, Raoul wonders if anyone noticed him using telekinesis to adjust the impact numbers. A small smile touches his lips as he thinks about how Dylan will react to the final ranking. Without missing a beat, he used the system's scientific calculator to ensure his score remained genius, but not god tier yet. Best to hide abilities, especially with sages like Alfredo Gray around. He might be branded a heretic if he flaunts too much. In his past life, he was a top-ranked player who was eventually hunted down for his overwhelming power. The guild union studied and analyzed him until they found his one weakness and ended his reign. Won't be that stupid now. Clench. He grips his coat, his eyes filled with the cold resolve of a hunter who has already won. Checking status screen now. His stats show massive improvement, with his strength reaching 68 and his sense hitting 71. I want Dalton and Jameson to do well, because it'll make my eventual victory that much sweeter. Statues in the assembly hall now. Dalton stands silently by a pillar, his blue hair casting a shadow over his stoic face. A flashback reveals the heavy burden placed on him to win and preserve his grandfather's legacy. For a split second, he practiced relentlessly to escape the monotonous drills and find his own path at the academy. Dalton crouches on bench. He can't believe he was pushed down to second place by a 15-year-old country noble. The famous Templeton heir feels the weight of his family's expectations crushing him once again, searching for the boy now. Dalton approaches Raoul with a hesitant step, his previous confidence completely evaporated. Raoul turns toward him, his face illuminated by a faint golden shine from the academy windows. "I'm Dalton," he says. Fwip. Raoul turns to leave after a short greeting, his dismissal of the rising star total and absolute. The dumbass rival watches him go, realizing it's been a long time since anyone has outright rejected him like that. Dalton just watches him leave. A fucking cold smirk plays on his lips as he anticipates the look on his rival's face during the upcoming exam. The announcer kicks off the third test, which is a brutal obstacle course designed to weed out the weaklings. Every cadet is forced to run the track while weighed down by thick plates of steel armor. The lower-ranked students struggle immediately, and most of them collapse before they even hit the halfway point. The blonde lord watches the carnage, realizing the vice principal buffed this course. This update changes everything. On the overhead scoreboard, a finishing time of 9 minutes and 12 seconds sets a high bar for the early leaders. Dalton lets out a bored yawn, clearly unimpressed by the mediocre performance of the commoners. Raoul pops open his system interface to track the top scores as they happen. The instructor warns that while these traps are magical phantoms, the physical impact will feel very real. Cadet number 285 gets the call, and the Ashtonewer steps up to the starting line. The old armor is stiff and suffocating. However, he taps into his leveled-up sword expert stats to completely negate the crushing weight of the steel. The first challenge is a set of rushing torrents cutting through a jagged, rocky riverbed. Leaping across the slippery stones, he moves with a grace that makes the heavy plate look like a second skin. With one massive jump, he clears the water and sticks the landing perfectly on the far bank. The next leg of the race leads into a thick forest packed with hidden pressure plates and deadly magical traps. Meanwhile, he barely tilts his head as a volley of arrows whistles past his face by mere inches. Maintaining his momentum, the boy vaults over a pit of stakes without losing a single beat. Floating blades get swatted away mid-sprint. His focus remains absolute as his eyes track every tiny movement in the terrain ahead. Using the trees as springboards, he kicks off the bark to navigate the winding forest path. His analytical eye spots the other elites. A swinging bridge over a massive ravine serves as the most dangerous section of the outdoor course. His blade flashes out just as the fireball catapults begin their heavy bombardment. Charging forward, he prioritizes raw speed over safety, completely ignoring the risk of a fatal fall. The wind howls through his silver visor. The bridge shakes violently under his weight, but he uses telekinesis to stay perfectly centered. Massive explosions erupt from the wooden towers, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and red as he pushes forward. Then and there, he weaves through the falling fireballs while his sword carves a path through the heat toward the forest exit. Without even blinking, he dives under a final wave of projectiles, moving with the fluid grace of a dancer rather than a heavily armored knight. Once he clears the open field, the final trial of the exam awaits him deep inside the shadows of a dark cave. He plunges into the darkness with his blade at the ready, prepared for the complex traps hidden within the rock walls. At the same time, a confident grin forms on his face. Meanwhile, Jameson McNeil raises his massive shield to block a barrage of arrows with sheer dipshit brute force. The muscular warrior snaps an arrow shaft, clearly frustrated by what he considers a trivial academy exam. A quick flashback shows the warrior in his prime as a veteran of the capital city guard tournaments. In the next beat, he grits his teeth, fueled by a secret mission from his grandfather to take the top spot. The veteran sprints toward the cave exit, determined to crush the hopes of the Ashton rookie. One beat later, he bursts through the finish with a roar. The scoreboard flashes an incredibly impressive time of 5 minutes and 15 seconds, making the crowd go wild for the leader. Jameson catches his breath, convinced that no freshman could ever hope to top his seasoned performance. His jaw drops as the board updates, showing Dalton in first place with a staggering run that breaks the 5-minute mark. Dalton sheathes his sword with a cold stare. Jameson clenches his fist in fury, offended that a Templeton has once again ruined his moment in the spotlight. Dalton glances around the assembly, wondering where that blonde Ashton boy has managed to disappear. Caleb Randall smirks from the sidelines, assuming no 15-year-old could ever hope to challenge the academy elites. His expression twists into total disbelief as a loud notification echoes through the stadium. The scene cuts to the board flickering one last time. Murmurs of shock ripple through the crowd. The boy walks away from the finish line, having timed his arrival perfectly to avoid drawing too much suspicion. Dalton and Jameson stare at his retreating back, their arrogance finally replaced by a real sense of rivalry. Up in the VIP box, the observers are in a total uproar over the heir's incredible performance. Lord Dillon laughs heartily, claiming his family has always trained their children in unique ranger and combat styles that others can't match. Deep down, Dillon feels a bit guilty. A vision comparing the runs shows Jameson smashing through every obstacle with nothing but raw, douchebag brute power. In contrast, Dalton is shown wielding his longsword with surgical precision, utilizing a style that perfectly mirrors his legendary grandfather. Then, the focus shifts to Raoul, whose precise and efficient movements are unlike anything the academy instructors have ever seen in their lives. Most notably, he managed to navigate the entire cave section without triggering a single magical trap along the way. Dillon realizes his brother was hiding his talent. He clenches his fist with a prideful grin, deciding they need to have a serious talk about these secrets. The exam finally ends as the sun sets. The boy accepts a few brief congratulations from his fans before making a quick exit to avoid the crowd. Immediately, he boards his private carriage, feeling the adrenaline finally fade away to reveal a deep, crushing exhaustion from the day's events. Leaning his head against the window, he decides that a short nap is the only thing he wants. His dreams take him back to a dark alley in his past life where a hooded man looms over a girl. Han Gilju looms over them with a dagger. Surrounded by corporate mercenaries, the top-ranked player realizes he has walked right into a lethal trap. Gilju mocks him, laughing at the idea that anyone would care about the life of a mere guide NPC in this world. A flashback shows the entire year the player spent protecting the girl while facing down countless dangers by her side. He realizes he has lost everything to a group of greedy guilds that had absolutely nothing to do with the actual scenario. His spiritual energy rumbles as he holds her close, and the rage within him finally reaches a boiling point. A massive blue explosion erupts from his body, throwing the mercenaries back with a wave of overwhelming telekinetic force. He attacks with a flurry of spectral daggers, taking every one of them down with him, before succumbing succumbing to his wounds as the vision of failure fades away. The hooded player's eyes glow with lethal intent before the darkness of the dream finally swallows him whole. He promises to return in another life. While everything erupts around them, he stands in the center of the carnage, acting as a specter of vengeance that the guild will never forget. The nightmare concludes with a cold demand for an explanation for the heartless elimination of the innocent guide. He disappears into a swirl of blue lightning and shadow, leaving behind a trail of defeated enemies in his wake. Right there, he wakes up drenched in cold sweat. The boy grips his head as a dull throb settles in his temples, feeling the weight of old promises. A blue icon flashes in his peripheral vision, drawing his attention away from the painful thoughts of his past life. In one clean motion, he taps the floating holographic letter. Raoul gasps as he reads that the Pre-Scenario 5 1.0 update is scheduled to launch in exactly 1 month from today. This means the release of hidden ancient dungeons and the Dimension Gate system is about to begin. He realizes he has to accelerate his preparations because the timeline is moving faster than he predicted. Looking out the carriage window, he realizes his entire future depends on how he uses the next 30 days. Frustration sets in as he realizes his time is already spread too thin between classes and his guild duties. That night, he stays up by candlelight to draft a more efficient plan for securing the city's defenses against the coming threat. Amid the chaos, he consults with a shadowy contact to put together a solid strategy for recruiting more high-level experts. The scene shifts to a royal meeting. A mysterious figure in a red mask slams his hand down, declaring their plan begins in 1 month. The Randall branch was completely wiped out. The masked leader silences his subordinates, noting they must account for the sudden activity of the Ashton heir. This matters later. For a moment, they suspect a powerful mage is assisting the boy, which heavily complicates their intended takeover of the kingdom. For a quick second, they shift their focus toward Dalton, unaware that Raoul is the one dismantling their networks from the shadows. The leader dismisses him as just a kid. The villain watches the horizon with narrowed eyes, knowing any small deviation could ruin their entire plan. Back at the academy, the blonde young lord continues his studies with a face that acts as a mask of cold determination. With a steady calm, he watches the students gathering in the plaza, knowing the coming update will change their lives forever. Immediately, he chooses to commute to the academy to maintain better control over the rapid growth of his guild. Murmurs follow him through the halls. Ignoring the jealous grumbles, he views the academy as nothing more than a minor stepping stone. A notice on the wall confirms that Raoul and his rivals are all leading Class S together. Rubbing his chin, he notes that the rewards for the placement quest were unfortunately less than impressive. Without a thought, he enters the lecture hall feeling bored. The next beat, he notes that his classmates are hesitant to approach him, likely intimidated by both his family name and his sudden growth. On gut instinct, he offers a small, calculated smile. The first day concludes without incident until an academy official approaches him with a mysterious golden scroll. In the noise, he is informed that his status as the top student has earned him a private meeting with great sage Alfredo Gray himself. Immediately, he is stunned by the reward, realizing that meeting one of the continent's 3 sages this early is a massive advantage for him. Before anyone blinks, he recalls Gray's history as a legendary archmage known for his mastery of both illusion and alchemy. He follows the official toward the office. Taking a deep breath, he knocks on the massive wooden doors with his heart racing in anticipation. Alfredo Gray looks up from his desk, radiating an aura of ancient power that fills the entire room. The archmage asks him to wait a moment. Raoul sits quietly, sensing a heavy aura around the old man that confirms his 8th tier status. Instinctively, he feels a sudden urge to use his analytical eye to peek at the sage's hidden stats. The system interface appears, but most of the information is obscured by question marks due to the sage's superior rank. Without a pause, he gulps as Gray continues writing, feeling like the man can see right through his very soul. The sage knows about his special eye. Imagine trying to hide stats from an 8th tier mage. Raoul freezes in place, wondering if the sage has already figured out that he is a reincarnated player using tools. Gray apologizes with a warm but authoritative voice. He remarks that the boy is even more handsome up close, with his eyes twinkling with amusement. Tea is served for their conversation. Gray congratulates him on his performance, noting that he was very impressed by the surgical precision of his movements during the exam. The boy asks why a great sage would be so interested in a simple country noble. Gray takes a slow sip of tea before mentioning the imperial hounds and projecting a magical image of the kingdoms on the verge of total collapse. In one move, he reveals that he knows exactly who saved the alchemist Nakia and recruited her to the Ashton side. The archmage admits he he has been watching the boy's progress ever since that incident at the Imperial branch. And then, he claims that the blonde heir has the making of a hero who can navigate turbulent times. Gray gives a predatory smile, noting that he intends to keep a very close eye on him. Just out of nowhere, he knows Gray as the quest machine. This meeting starts a long chain. The sage warns him that the Kranan Empire is far too dangerous for him to handle alone. Without even blinking, he reveals that he has been tracking the boy's every move since his arrival in the trade city. The Randalls are in for a bad time. Raoul flinches, knowing that if the Randalls find out the truth, his guild will be targeted immediately. Gray reassures him that his secrets are safe, admitting he admires the teenager's impressive level of restraint. Just out of nowhere, he asks if the teenager understands why the Kranan Empire is considered such a massive existential threat. He shows an image of the vast but barren imperial territories, explaining that their true strength lies in their population. He believes the true danger is their intelligence network, which has already infiltrated every single kingdom on the continent. The sage points out a narrow canyon that remains the only breach point into the empire's heart. While the kingdoms have built walls and allied forces, they are still completely exposed to internal sabotage. He warns that while the kingdoms show their hands, the empire remains a dark mystery to everyone. The explanation is chilling because it's true. Gray needs someone to strike from shadows. Raoul considers the possibility that Nakia's legendary growth in the future was actually orchestrated by Gray from the beginning. No second thoughts, he nods respectfully, promising to take the advice to heart and maintain a low profile for now. As a thank you for his patience, the Archmage reaches into his desk to offer a reward. While everything hits the fan, he hands over an expensive ring humming with blue mana, which is a unique grade artifact. Raoul is hesitant to accept such a valuable gift, but the sage insists it's for his potential. On gut instinct, he bows deeply and departs the office. It's a polymorph ring for physical transformation. Right after that, he realizes this is exactly what he needs to disguise his identity and move freely through the capital city. Being a count's son has placed too many restrictions on him, especially with guards watching his moves. Amid the chaos, he tests the 6th-tier magic of the ring, watching as blue flames dance around his fingertip. In one breath, he clenches his fist with a bright grin, noting that he will make excellent use of this gift to crush the Empire. Life at the academy remains smooth sailing for the next few days, as he continues to lay low and observe. However, Dalton starts sitting next to him in class and suggests they visit a local armory shop. The boy waves him away to go train. Dalton becomes a permanent, unwanted shadow. At least she has better manners than Dalton. The young lord sighs, noting that the blue-haired genius doesn't seem interested in making any other friends besides him. The scene shifts to the library. Stone calm, he walks through the massive, multi-tiered archive, noting that his first-place status gives him access to the 4th floor. Determined to find a telekinesis manual, he clenches his books tight and scans the higher shelves. The lower floors are full of trash. A sudden flash of green catches his eye as a small spirit motherfucking creature flutters between the shelves. He spots a student dozing off before the tiny fairy spirit smacks him, sending the kid running out screaming about ghosts. LaBelle pouts and demands respect for books. Raoul watches her from a distance, noting that she seems to be sensing the quality of the books in the room. In a snap, he overhears other students laughing about the ghost, realizing most people can't actually see her clearly. The fairy spirit looks exhausted, knowing her body can no longer sustain itself without a powerful spellbook. Before anyone blinks, she leans against a shelf, realizing her end is drawing near unless she finds a suitable home. Without thinking twice, she clenches her tiny fists, sensing a great change coming and refusing to succumb to her fate just yet. Straight away, she flinches at a powerful new sensation. The blonde human is staring at her. No stalling, she watches as the boy picks up several unusual skill books, stunned by his knack for finding items. Soon after, he needs more combat-related skill books. A ghostly image of a telekinetic warrior appears in his mind, signaling he needs more information. This skill becomes his signature. In seconds, he finds a C-rank combat manual that is definitely better than the artistic skills he found earlier. Placing his hand on his skill journal, he activates the absorption process with a brilliant blue flash. The fairy spirit gasps at the item. No time wasted, she watches the book glow, realizing it contains a power that feels like an ancient god. A beat later, she stares at the young lord from behind the shelves, finding him to be a very intriguing human. Cool as ice, she notices him reading the same parts repeatedly, unaware he's recording data into his system. Right at that moment, she decides to take a closer look. Without a thought, she hesitates, remembering that she usually finds humans to be of no use to her existence. In a heartbeat, he has recorded 700 skills. The spirit reaches out a hand as a magical circle forms, indicating she's attempting to enter the journal. The book actually refuses her entry. Raoul stands up and asks the tiny creature who she is and why she's touching his property. With dead calm, she looks flustered, realizing that even the greatest spellbooks usually reveal their secrets to her almost instantly. She looms over the journal with pure desperation, begging the boy to show her what's inside. Raoul looks at her with a flat expression, noting she is a forest forest fairy who loves harmony and order. No pause. She's surprised he can hear her. With a cold calm, she asks how he sees her before trying to fly away. But he grabs the journal and demands her story. With a steady calm, he decides to use her interest. A notification pings as the absorption finishes, and he checks his newly updated journal list. No hesitation at all, he notes that despite all his hard work, the journal is still stuck at the rare rank for now. No warning at all, she asks what kind of book it is. He gives her a cold glare, asking if she should apologize for touching a book that doesn't belong to her. In one smooth motion, she flinches and offers a sincere apology. At least she has better manners than Dalton. For one beat, she introduces herself as La Belle, a soul walking the fine line between life and death. With chilling calm, he knows she's no ordinary fairy. She admits that humans call her the library ghost because she's been bound here for centuries. Just for a moment, she insists she's a special being. She points at the journal, noting that out of all the mysterious books here, this one is the most special. Squeezing her hands together, she begs him to let her see the power contained within the pages. Raoul ponders the offer, realizing a permanent librarian might be the key to upgrading the journal's rank. With no warning, he flips the book open, allowing her to feel the massive flow of energy from the system. A beat later, she closes her eyes in bliss. A sudden zapping sound startles her as the journal attempts to integrate her presence, prompting him to ask if she's all right. No time to waste, he grabs her hand to steady her. Soon after, she sparkles with a new light. Calm as ever, she explains that the book contains an ancient power that could restore her tribe's lost wisdom. His eyes glow a deep blue. He asks what he will gain by letting her stay, and she promises to help manage his collection of skills more efficiently. In one smooth motion, she insists she'll be useful soon. The system officially appoints La Belle as the librarian, increasing the journal's rank and overall functionality. On autopilot, she flinches as the contract is finalized, realizing she is now permanently bound to the Ashton heir forever. In a heartbeat, he tells her he's busy and needs to leave for urgent matters before the update. Without a pause, she promises to be a loyal assistant. The boy notes the book is important and expects her to take her duties seriously. In the same moment, she breaks down in happy tears. In one move, he tells her to calm down. He has secured another vital piece. The scene shifts to the Academy Gardens as the final week before the system update begins to loom. Raoul sits on a bench with a cup of tea, noted that he is starting to feel the immense pressure of the timeline. Lord Dylan arrives with a booming laugh, noting that the temple has finally received a divine oracle. In no time, he reveals the prophet's words about the return of things that have long since disappeared. This refers to the gates. The noble families are starting to prepare. In a blink, he recites the final part of the prophecy about opening the door to prevent evil. Raoul ponders the vague words, realizing the temple is likely underestimating the scale of the disaster. For a tiny moment, they discuss the royal family's silence. Most nobles think it's bullshit. A history text mentions the Holy Empire, which is a region notorious for delivering false oracles. The gates will flood the land. He informs his brother that they've already implemented defensive measures in the territories they control. Dylan tells him to stop worrying. In the middle of it all, he gives a predatory grin, noting that he found out his little brother has been using telekinesis. For a second, he challenges the boy to a spar, noting that douchebag brute strength alone won't be enough to win. The two brothers face off on the training grounds as their swords clash in a shower of sparks. In the same moment, he has finally built some muscle. Dylan is proud of his progress. Raoul reflects on the war, knowing he must help his brother level up to survive. The gap between them is shrinking. Strengthening others is an interesting challenge. A beat later, he's almost done with his checklist. In a blink, he ponders the city's lack of change while a vision of monsters invading through the gates plunges the continent into total chaos. In the scramble, he realizes that despite his noble standing, there's only so much a 15-year-old can do alone. In a snap, he arrives at guild headquarters. No time to waste, he meets with the mayors of 3 cities to propose a massive investment in defensive fortifications. Without delay, he watches the construction of a new tower, noting that he has already spent 3 million gold. With dead calm, he oversees the recruitment of new members, offering the best performers a chance to become knights. The roster is finally complete. The investment will pay off later. In one clean decision, he won't worry about territorial war. Sir Philip bows, reporting that all 45 primary members have arrived and are ready for group training sessions. Raoul grins, noting that all 6 trainee knights from the first raid have now officially become experts. Without even blinking, he stands before his new guild, the First Order, which looks like a wall of iron. The guild hits level 10. Their potential is all B rank. A final countdown appears on the horizon, showing only 9 hours and 17 minutes until the update. The true game begins now. The guard has no idea what's coming. They're about to be unemployed real fast. The masked leader asks if the Ashton family is truly devout enough to follow those warnings. In a split second, he notes that while they are friendly with the church, their primary loyalty is to themselves. His spies failed to infiltrate the guild. In one breath, He is shocked to learn that not a single one of his men passed the screening process. Raoul is shown in full commander's gear, overseeing the city's defenses with a cold, calculated gaze. This kid has terrifying instincts. The plan moves forward now. A young boy points at the sky as a storm of purple stars descends, filling the air with a terrifying rumbling sound. Screams fill the streets as a massive earthquake rocks the very foundation of the capital city. The sky itself is tearing apart. A dimension gate erupts in the city. A horde of green-skinned orcs crashes through the gateway and begins their general assault on everyone. The lead monster roars for blood. A mother shields her child. Out of nowhere, a squad of First Order knights arrives with glowing blades to engage the motherfucking monster horde. Raoul stands at the center of the battlefield, noting that the citizens are being evacuated to safety. Right at that moment, he orders his knights to bolster security around the secondary gates spotted in the outer districts immediately. Winged attackers emerge from red energy. An archer from the guild locks onto a target, hitting every mark with supernatural accuracy. Sir Philip charges through the melee, his black armor covered in the remains of the defeated monsters. More gates are opening in Sector 32. The scene shifts to the command table. Bernard is coordinating the retreat. The battlefield is a scene of total chaos, with fires burning and steel clashing everywhere. An orc lunges at a knight, but a telekinetic blast shatters its armor. As Raoul notes his lack of gate intel, he can't clear these portals alone. He watches the map with intense focus, noting that his units are being stretched to their limits. A new quest window appears for Gate Rush, a limited-time event to clear out the portals. He slams his fist onto the table, noting that the gates regenerate daily at midnight. A system warning identifies this as a mechanism designed to steer player behavior toward the main story. He refuses to give up now. A golden gate appeared in Sector 17. He bellows for a sector lockdown. Ratmen are emerging from flames. Raoul decides he's taking this gate down personally. Before anyone reacts, he draws his signature blade as his golden armor reflects the flickering light of the burning city. Josh is absolutely terrified right now. Cool as ice, he just wanted a cushy job. In a heartbeat, he remembers the free meals. Now, he is surrounded by a dozen monsters and is about to be crushed by them. Straight away, he swings his sword in a desperate arc, managing to deflect a series of lethal stabs. A massive rat monster towers over him. The rookie prepares for the end, knowing he can't win with his basic skills. A flash of blue lightning cuts through the air as Raoul arrives to carve through the defenses. The guildmaster lands perfectly, with his blonde hair catching the light as he stares down the horde. Telekinetic spears fill the air. With steady composure, he clears the entire area with the heartless precision of a master. He asks if he's interrupting training. Imagine your boss saving you with a joke. Josh finally recognizes his lord. Raoul offers a hand and encourages him to join the raid on the Golden Gate. Unshaken, he's in the presence of greatness. Philip arrives with reinforcements, warning others not to underestimate the guild because of its master's age. The main raid begins now. Fear is replaced by loyalty. A final wave of ratmen emerges from the cave for one last desperate stand. Raoul stands at the head of his army, noting that this D-rank gate is truly no joke. Raoul stands before the smoldering ruins of the gate. The knight captain stays close, ready to scout for any hidden monster nests. Josh dives into the shadows with a shout, desperate to impress his new lord. Out of nowhere, a swarm of ratmen bursts from the gloom with their filth-covered claws out for blood. The red-haired mercenary delivers a heavy slash, catching a beast mid-leap with his blade. Red mist sprays over the dirt as the rookie manages the front line with some surprisingly nimble footwork. Philip watches the kid with a confused look. Amidst the piles of monster corpses, the guildmaster sees the raw potential hiding within his newest hire. Mana training could turn this commoner legendary. Deep within the territory, the team finds a massive settlement vibrating with hostile energy. Sir Philip reports that the entire area appears to be cleared of any human survivors. The young master refuses to leave anyone behind in the dark, ordering his men to maintain the search. The rookie gets invited to the front lines. A massive, burning gateway looms over the horizon, signaling that the long night has only just begun. High above the capital, the lights of the noble district flicker as the city enters a state of crisis. Later, the blonde noble uses a magical orb to check on his family territory. Dylan's face appears in the glow, reporting that their side of the county is still holding relatively firm. The sheer number of gates is shocking. An offer for backup is quickly dismissed by a laugh from the MC's older brother. A vision of Count Ashton wielding a massive blade flashes through his mind as the veterans hold the line. The legendary commander-in-chief is shown leading a charge with the energy of someone attending a summer festival. It's a wonder how these veteran warriors held themselves back for so many years. Dylan laughs, reminding his brother that the people of House Ashton have never been average. A warning follows, telling Raoul not to get too reckless with his strange new abilities. The massive warrior flexes his strength, serving as a reminder of the family's absolute military dominance over the region. The county can handle itself without help. Even through the communication orb, the intense pressure radiating from the warrior makes the MC flinch. lunch. His older brother bellows for him to focus on his own path and get things done. Realizing he was fucking being a bit too arrogant about his progress, the young noble lets out a laugh. Reports reveal that cleared gates aren't disappearing. In one clean decision, he stares at the orb in disbelief, knowing this anomaly changes the entire nature of the war. The core team gathers in the war room to discuss why the portals are suddenly refusing to close. Sir Jake looks concerned, knowing the knights can't stay on guard duty for every gate forever. The guildmaster sits at the head of the table, already calculating a new strategy for survival. Philip asks if the army should be readied. Raoul decides to handpick a small team of elites to investigate these spatial anomalies for himself. The butler starts prepping the scouts. Jake laughs, treating this dangerous mission like it's just a casual picnic in the countryside. Back on the front lines, a portal erupts. Raoul leads the elite group forward as his golden armor reflects the flickering light of the magic breach. The sound of crushing armor echoes through the cavern as the knights push deeper into the enemy's lair. An arrow whistles through the air, sniping a hooded attacker before they can strike from the shadows. Sir Piers secures a high vantage point, tracking every movement in the dark with eagle eyes. Jake shouts in frustration because someone interfered. His competitive fire burns bright as he demands to know who has the higher monster kill count. The guildmaster is unimpressed by the lack of focus during an E-rank gate raid. A ghostly image of the battlefield reveals the true combat power of the connected NPCs. Most of his men possess fighting abilities that far surpass those of an average player. A system window explains that NPCs are barred from entering the Guardian or Boss chambers. A workaround is needed to clear these. A hidden quest pings in his vision, tasking him with the personal defeat of the Gate Guardian. In the mayhem, he grips his hilt, knowing the schedule is tight and he doesn't have time to waste. Standing over the fallen corpses of his enemies, the blonde noble lets the mana wind whip his cape. Josh points toward a massive shadow nearby. A hulking monstrosity steps into the light, its eyes glowing with a mindless, eternal hunger. The system identifies the beast as the Dark Hex Goblin, the official guardian of this E-rank gate. The giant monster lets out a roar that shakes the foundation of the dark cave. Sir Jake smirks, offering to handle the beast himself to save the group a little time. A single word stops him cold. Raoul draws his signature blade in a brilliant flash of blue energy, intending to take the beast down solo. The knights watch in awe as their lord steps into the kill zone without any backup. The Dark Hex Goblin lunges forward, swinging a massive mace that shatters the stone floor. Blue light flares in the boy's eyes as he tracks the predictable movement of his attacker. Instinctively, he intercepts the overhead smash with his blade, creating a shockwave that rattles the entire room. The air screams with the sound of steel. No delay, he parries the attack with zero effort, using the momentum to create a perfectly lethal opening. With a high-speed slash, he cleaves through the motherfucking monster's defense and ends the fight in an instant. The knights share a look of total disbelief at the terrifying speed of their master. Standing over the giant corpse, the guildmaster notes that this was a tough opponent for commoners. He waits for the system notification. A massive error message flashes red, confirming that the gate collapse sequence has been aborted. Right on the spot, he freezes in confusion, realizing this gate has been designated as essential to the scenario's script. With no warning, he reaches down to retrieve a glowing blue orb, identifying it as a rare piece of core ore. With enough of these materials, he explains that the guild can eventually build power armor. The portal flares back to life. A dark grin touches his lips as he decides to use these regenerating gates to grow infinitely stronger. For a brief second, he orders his men to prepare for the next gate without taking a single break. Josh is asked if he's ready. The young master admits he took away the boy's chance to shine and wants to make it up. The First Order marches back into the swirling flames, appearing as a disciplined wall of iron. The very next moment, they emerge into a pitch-dark cavern that feels much more like a natural cave. Raoul activates a magical lamp to pierce the shadows, sensing a chilling hostility close by. In a heartbeat, he tells the men to stay close to the light to avoid getting lost in the tunnels. Josh is entrusted with the valuable lamp. The red-haired recruit is stunned by the praise, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. A status screen reveals the boy's hidden potential as an A-rank mercenary candidate. Sir Piers reports a lot of movement further up the path. The next second, the sound of a bowstring snaps. A swarm of screeching creatures descends from the ceiling, their red eyes glowing in the gloom. Raoul draws his blade and stands ready, his golden armor reflecting the dim light of the lantern. Hundreds of giant bats flood the chamber, drawn to the light and hungry for fresh flesh. Josh realizes he is the main target. Sir Jake prepares to lunge in, but he is stopped by the sheer density of the swarm. The red-haired recruit roars in defiance, refusing to let the flying pests touch his master's property. A second later, he unleashes unleashes a flurry of slashes that carves through the bat swarm with surprising efficiency. Philip notes that the Lord's praise went straight to the kid's head. The other knights just laugh and tell Josh to keep going as more bats descend. With no sign, they push deeper into the cave, noting that this D-rank gate seems like a nest of pests. Josh asks Philip how strong Raoul truly is. The captain replies that strength is relative, especially since the young lord grows more powerful every day. Immediately, he believes the noble is exceptional, even if his pure swordsmanship is still developing. Jake starts flailing around like a clown because a giant insect landed on his shoulder. Philip sighs at the goofy behavior. The group stops as the guildmaster's analytical eye catches sight of a far more dangerous threat. A horde of armored scorpions skitters into the light, with their level 45 status making them real problems. In the middle of it all, he warns the men to watch out for shells that are as tough as reinforced steel. A new quest window appears, tasking the guild with hunting down 50 scorpions to clear the cavern. This is the minimum requirement to conquer the gate. He draws his blade in one smooth motion, the steel humming with blue spiritual energy. He blurs through the horde, carving through the scorpions' thick shells like they were made of paper. Blood and ichor splatter the floor as the knights engage the monsters in a frantic melee. Josh flinches as a pincer snaps near his face. A flash of blue lightning cuts through the air as the MC arrives to deflect a sting. Without thinking twice, he uses 4 telekinetic swords to pin a monster to the wall, shattering its carapace instantly, right on the spot. He asks the recruit if it's tough to fight while protecting the lamp. The young master apologizes for stealing the spotlight before preparing for the next round of combat. In one smooth motion, he stands calmly in the eye of the storm, his authority over the battlefield now absolute. Suddenly, he delivers a final overhead strike that sends the last scorpion tumbling across the floor. The minimum requirement for the gate territory is met. However, he insists on finding the guardian, refusing to leave a D-rank gate unfinished. Sir Jake groans, wanting to escape the cave. Raoul uses his analytical eye to scan the darkness, searching for any traces of the final boss. Sir Piers reports the cave's end is found. In the chaos, they discover a massive arena carved with ancient scorpion motifs deep within the earth. The young lord leads the way, his shadow stretching long across the dusty floor. In the center of the arena, the D-rank gate guardian sits waiting. The Scorpion Champion. The system identifies the monster as Level 64, a rank C+ threat that far surpasses the commoners. The beast lets out a low growl. Raoul offers a dark, confident grin, eager to test his growth against a worthy scumbag opponent. Like it was nothing, he blinks out of existence and reappears above the monster's head, blade held high. Straight away, he reflects on the thrill of the fight, glad to be free from boring guild affairs. The two warriors collide with the force of a falling star, deafening everyone in the room. The Scorpion Champion swings its massive sword, warping the air with a blast of purple energy. Raoul meets the attack with a strike so fast the air itself seems to ignite. The beast lunges with its tail, then it happens. He locks blades with the hybrid monster, his face a mask of cold and lethal determination. The Scorpion Champion bellows in rage as its dipshit brute force is neutralized by a teenager. Shimmering light deflects a counterattack as the mana-infused blade clashes with a pincer. Right there, he delivers a relentless barrage of strikes, driving the giant monster back across the arena. Jake watches from the sidelines, realizing his master has the upper hand. It's clear that Raoul is holding back his true power just to enjoy the duel. The duel is finally nearing its end. On gut instinct, he grips his hilt and steps into a finishing stance, his eyes glowing with golden light. In the mayhem, he asks the beast which part will fall first, the sword, the tail, or the claws. The Scorpion Champion roars for a final assault, raising its jagged blade for a crushing blow. It spits a wave of green venom. The toxic slime splatters harmlessly against the stone, sizzling as it melts the floor. The young noble reappears right in the monster's face, his blade already in mid-swing. Immediately, they collide one last time, with the resulting explosion of mana throwing onlookers into the walls. Josh gasps, realizing the creature had its own mana blade. Raoul stands perfectly still as the blue energy fades, his target lying broken at his feet. Just like that, he reflects on his past life as Crash, remembering how much he loved the adrenaline of battle. No warning at all, he offers a small, predatory smile to his fallen foe. The Guardian was surprisingly quick, even managing to land a single glancing blow. And just like that, he raises his sword high. With one final, thunderous blow, he cleaves through the monster's core and ends the trial. In no time, he wipes blood from his cheek, his authority now absolute over the entire gate territory. With calm precision, he bids the champion a final farewell as the mana begins to dissipate into the air. Philip notes that it's only a matter of time before Raoul surpasses the masters. A notification confirms that his mastery of Bear Crush has reached intermediate level 4. His job officially changes to knight, making him an intermediate expert at only 15. In a flash, he apologizes for keeping the team waiting. Josh runs over with a wide grin, absolutely amazed by the performance of his guildmaster. Raoul orders the team to prepare for the next gate since they are behind schedule. Calm as ever, onward they march back toward the city. After 7 long hours of gate hopping, the team finally stops to catch their breath. Reports confirm that the First Order has successfully cleared 4 D-rank gates in one day. Meanwhile, Bernard's mercenary unit has managed to secure several E-rank gates. Over 700 residents are rescued, giving the guild's public reputation a massive boost. Raoul stands on his balcony at sunset, knowing the true gate crisis is only starting. Commoners in the local taverns discuss the heroic exploits of the youngest Ashton Master. The scene cuts to a massive building belonging to a dipshit rival faction. A man with red hair reads the headlines with a look of pure fury on his face. Immediately, he crumples the newspaper, unable to believe a brat could steal so much influence so fast. A subordinate is summoned to explain how years of work were undone in a week. A massive earthquake rocks the building. The red-haired noble is thrown to the floor, realizing his spies have been completely useless. Meanwhile, Count Ashton's boys are shown training with their eyes glowing with red mana. The disgraced Randall heir gasps for air, unable to handle the intimidation from his own father. The leader of House Randall orders his son to leave and never show his face again. A secret report reveals military casualties are rising because knights are too afraid to enter portals. The Count grits his teeth at the cowardice of the other nobles. Like it was Tuesday, he slams his desk in fury, declaring the Ashton family will take matters into their own hands. Back at the academy, students murmur in awe as Raoul walks through the halls. The maids whisper about how handsome the Count's youngest son looks in his uniform. Jealous nobles glare from the corner, accusing him of just riding his family's coattails. Before anyone can react, a blue-haired student wraps an arm around the MC with a wide grin. In seconds, he asks if the bullshit rumor is true that Raoul is the heir to the estate. Raoul pushes him away, claiming he has zero interest in becoming a count or a politician. In a heartbeat, he walks away, knowing he has enough money to survive without family support. No warning at all, he hit the jackpot by befriending the grandson of a legendary swordmaster. A flashback reveals the true reason for enrolling: the academy's restricted library. Before anyone blinks, he watches the cadets train, scanning for any hidden talent he can recruit. He already has a list of potential recruits from his past life. No second thoughts, he spots a veteran warrior in the distance, the legendary Marcus de Templeton. Dalton is desperate for real combat experience, so the MC decides to make an offer. The blue-haired student clenches his fist in excitement when Raoul invites him on a raid. However, the guildmaster sets a few strict conditions for their upcoming excursion. First, he must come alone without any attendants to maintain total secrecy. Raoul wonders if the boy is worried about walking into a trap with a stranger. Dalton is told he needs written permission from the Duke. With steady composure, he insists that he can't burden his knights with Dalton's personal safety during the raid. No hesitation, he dismisses the boy, telling him to come back once he has the paperwork. My Dalton groans at the thought of convincing his old man. Later that evening, Raoul sits in his office with Philip and the butler. While everything erupts around them, he asks how many people are managing the public's opinion of the First Order. Bernard has deployed over 100 mercenaries to spread word of their victories. Looking at his reflection in a teacup, Raoul knows this is critical for his position. He decides to approach the Voice of Reuben, an elite press organization. For a heartbeat, he orders the number of bards to be doubled to counter the greedy nobles. While everything erupts around them, he smiles, knowing only the chosen can retrieve valuable loot from these gates. Philip notes that if word gets out, many lords might ignore portals out of fear. The guildmaster clicks his teacup, determined to prepare for the coming crisis. Soon after, a man in a tattered cloak runs through the back alleys. Without missing a beat, he is cornered by hooded figures with eyes glowing with red energy. A man in a toothy mask identifies himself as the leader of the Wings of Freedom. The next second, he offers the terrified scout a deal, saying it's a waste to kill someone skilled. The scout draws his sword, refusing to listen to the masked man's absurd demands. In no time, he freezes, realizing the leader is wearing specialized Imperial power armor. In the blink of an eye, he demands to know if they are Imperial agents sent to burn the kingdom. A massive explosion of blue energy throws the attackers back. Like a cheap jump scare, he escapes, realizing a mysterious organization is systematically hunting down guilds. The next morning, Raoul hears that F-rank gate permits have been revoked. Jake bellows in fury, accusing royal officials of making a stupid decision. The guildmaster remains calm as he hears other houses are dividing the gates. In a blink, he notes the captain's stress and decides to use the situation to earn trust. No delay, he offers a reserve unit to help oversee the portals, surprising the official. In one smooth motion, he reminds the man that it's a noble's duty to protect the people. The captain suspects the treasury minister's faction is behind the permit revocation. Raoul notes that the minister has close ties with the Randall family. Sir Jake asks what they did wrong. Right on the spot, he offers a calculated smile, claiming they aren't losing anything by ignoring lower rank gates. F-rank portals can be cleared by ordinary soldiers and provide provide mediocre rewards. In the same moment, he decides it's more worthwhile to concentrate on high-rank gates while others struggle. Right away, he orders his troops to begin mounted training beyond the city walls. That fast, he stares at a blank ledger, knowing they need accomplishments to survive. In a flash, he gathers his elite team for a knighting ceremony to spread their name. A vision shows a knight kneeling before a commander. Meanwhile, soldiers at a D-rank gate wonder where the reinforcements are. A pink-haired noble on a white horse arrives, Arson de Carrington. While everything erupts around them, he looks at the portal with pure condescension, asking if this is what they fear. Before anyone can react, he orders the guards to stand aside, calling commoners a hindrance. In one smooth motion, he kicks a guard for asking about his horse, calling him a fool. Arson screams for his men to enter, ignoring warnings about high mana saturation. The guards watch him go with narrowed eyes. The pink-haired noble grumbles about the lack of loot in the district. No second thoughts, he swears to clear every gate and drag Raoul Ashton down personally. His lieutenant warns that it's risky to split forces inside the territory. Arson mocks him for being timid and worries about his house's image. All of a sudden, a terrifying sound echoes from the shadows. For one breath, he bellows for his lord to hide as a massive monster horde emerges. Back at headquarters, Raoul hears that 10 raid parties have gone missing. While everything goes sideways, he asks for more details, his expression turning serious. Straight away, he wonders if a portal has suddenly changed rank. Bernard is ordered to summon every high-ranking knight for a rescue op. At a different gate, a giant frog monster is cut down by a blue strike. Dalton Templeton complains that these gates are both boring and disgusting. Raoul reminds him that gates aren't for fun, despite the low rank. A window reveals the gate has a maximum capacity of 300 entrants. This is a lethal Imperial trap. Instinctively, he consults with Sir Homer, noting the terrain provides a clear vantage point. He orders the men to take positions in their practiced formation. Calm as ever, he raises a hand and channels his mana, coalescing glowing blue energy. A massive magic circle forms in the sky, crackling with high-tier lightning. Dalton stares in shock as blue blocks begin to clatter onto the soil. Sir Raoul shouts for his men to start construction on formation Type A. Within seconds, a massive stone fortress begins to rise from the ground. The blue-haired student can't comprehend how it was built so fast. The fort will serve as their base while they wait for the enemy. Like it was Tuesday, he remembers using this technique as Crash to clear dungeons faster. Dalton asks if this is still a rescue mission. The guildmaster offers a dark smile, noting the fort is necessary. A vision shows hundreds of hooded figures and shadow beasts waiting. The leader of the Imperial agents watches the fort with a hungry look. He identifies the rescue team as being the same size as his hostages. In the mess, he grips his jagged red blade and orders scouts to monitor them. Raoul stands on the ramparts as his armor reflects the cold moonlight. Dalton lies back on the stone, yawning and complaining about the boredom. The timing is finally perfect. Outside the walls, Imperial agents stare in horror at the fortress. Philip orders his archers to prepare as the first wave begins their dash. Raoul prods the enemy commander, calling them Imperial dogs. In seconds, he mocks the attackers for lugging around so much useless metal. The Imperial leader roars in fury, swearing to climb the walls himself. Raoul summons his telekinetic spears, humming with lethal power. Arrows whistle through the dark as the archers let loose a barrage. The Imperial soldiers charge, their weapons glowing with corrupt energy. Sir Piers fires 2 arrows at once with impossible precision. Dalton springs into action, his blue blade carving a path through agents. No hesitation. He notes that Imperial scum is more revolting than the monsters. The next second, a mutated red arm lunges from the smoke. These are Imperial demon soldiers, the Empire's best. The mission is accomplished as his power armor begins to flare. A line of hulking red monstrosities stomps toward the fort. One beast leaps into the air with a mindless, eternal hunger. Philip shouts for the archers to maintain fire at any cost. The demon soldiers swat arrows aside like they were mere flies. Raoul grips his sword tight for the final charge against the Empire. The massive red monstrosity lunges for the ramparts to start the slaughter. A massive red fist smashes into the earth. Soldiers brace themselves as the shockwave rips through the courtyard. One brave knight rallies the troops to hold the line. Dalton and the guildmaster leap into action immediately. The red monstrosity roars, towering over the chaotic battlefield. From the sidelines, the enemy commander just laughs at the destruction. Dalton stares him down, already annoyed by the man's arrogance. The blonde noble smiles, seeing a challenge worthy of his time. He raises his massive greatsword to signal the start of the real duel. The commander's expression shifts into a sinister, bloodthirsty grin as he realizes this might actually be fun. His blade glows with a sickly green energy. He raises the weapon high, challenging the 2 young nobles. Our boy steps forward, ready to unleash hell. The combatants clash in a blur of speed. Suddenly, a red beast lunges from the side. The guildmaster slices through the monster without stopping. Dalton follows up with fluid, precise movements. The commander's eyes go wide at their perfect coordination. Soldiers cheer as the demon army begins to fall. Dalton wipes sweat from his brow, realizing this is serious. The commander steps over the corpses of his own men. He mocks their failure and questions their loyalty. With a grin, he decides he has found a worthy opponent at last. He extends a dark invitation for a direct confrontation. Red energy flares as he readies his shield and sword. Dalton offers to help, but his leader waves him off. He wants to handle this boss personally. A giant spiked ball slams into the ground. A massive gladiator-type monster steps out of the dust. Dalton realizes he has his own problems to deal with. He tells his friend to focus on the commander instead. The blonde noble acknowledges the plan with a confident look. The commander steps closer, his jagged blade humming. The guildmaster glares, his eyes glowing with mana. The enemy mocks the boy's physical stature, but our boy remains silent, focusing entirely on the battle. He draws his golden blade as electricity crackles around it. Even the commander notes the high quality of the weapon. They lock eyes, the air heavy with tension. The villain is intrigued by the kid's spirit. The young master prepares to strike. The commander unleashes a wave of red energy. He warns the kid that he doesn't know the meaning of holding back when he fights for real. He stomps forward, crushing the stone beneath his boot. Then he lunges with terrifying speed. Dalton parries a massive blow from the gladiator. He grits his teeth against the crushing weight of the attack. The gladiator presses the advantage immediately. Dalton sprints away to create some distance. The monster roars and chases him down. It swings a massive shield and forces the blue-haired student to dodge. He wonders why the monster didn't shatter his defense. The gladiator screams in frustration. It stomps the ground, trying to crush the student flat. Dalton realizes this monster is intelligent, not just strong. He knows he can't back down now. The two clash again, sparks flying everywhere. Meanwhile, the commander and the noble trade heavy blows. The blonde knight is pushed back by the sheer force. He skids across the dirt and his eyes widen at the enemy's true strength. The commander swings his massive sword again. Our boy blocks, but the impact shakes his entire body. He struggles to hold his ground. The commander laughs, enjoying his overwhelming advantage. He swings down with a maniacal grin. The kid looks focused, analyzing the attack pattern. The villain praises his resistance. Our boy weaves through the attacks. He realizes the regnator armor is getting restless inside him. A fiery avatar manifests behind his back, but he decides against unleashing it to protect his troops. He needs to buy time. Suddenly, Philip contacts him via magic. The rescue mission is a success. Bernard confirms the operation is complete. Philip gives the signal to go all out. The guildmaster grins, knowing the tables have turned. He unleashes a burst of blue mana. A spear lies broken on the ground. Dalton pants heavily, exhausted from his duel. He realizes the rumors about the nobles were true. A hooded figure watches from the shadows. Arson de Carrington trembles in fear nearby. He can't believe the Imperial forces infiltrated this far. Dalton grits his teeth, ready to fight to the death. The hooded figure mocks their defiance, but Dalton refuses to give up. Arson looks absolutely terrified. The figure orders his men to capture the noble and kill the rest. Dalton prepares to defend the useless noble. Suddenly, arrows rain down from above. The attackers are cut down in an instant. Dalton looks up in surprise. First Order knights drop from the sky. A red-haired knight slashes through the enemy. Archers provide covering fire from the walls. The hooded assassins are taken out one by one. A massive knight lands with a heavy impact. The remaining assassins realize they are outmatched, but they refuse to surrender. A blonde knight grins maniacally in the firelight. Sir Jake stands over the defeated enemies. Arsène is shaking so hard he might fall over. A red-haired knight steps forward with a giant sword. He declares that the First Order has arrived. Josh looks confident for once. He reports the situation is under control. Our boy stands before the commander as the battle shifts. The commander asks what happened. The kid informs him that the hostages are safe. The commander is absolutely furious. He accuses the noble of using cheap tricks. He smashes his sword into the ground. He powers up, red energy exploding around him. Our boy activates his shadow clipper skill. He recalls seeing it used by Imperial swordsmen. A dark assassin leaps at him. The guildmaster's eyes glow gold. He grips his sword, mana surging. He unleashes a devastating slash. The commander blocks it with a shocked expression. The impact sends shockwaves through the area. Our boy pushes forward with incredible force. The commander slides back, barely holding on. Another clash of blades rings out. Sparks fly as they trade strikes. The noble presses the attack. The commander realizes he's in trouble. Our boy kicks him back. He follows up with a powerful overhead swing. The enemy taunts him again, so the kid charges up for a massive attack. The energy energy reaches 100%. His eyes flash. He leaps into the air. A golden aura surrounds his blade. He brings the sword down. The ground explodes on impact. The commander struggles against the lightning. Copycat activates. The skill is successfully copied. Our boy thanks him for the technique. He prepares to use it against its owner. He charges forward. A dark spike shoots up from the ground. Nearby, Dalton is still fighting the gladiator. He grits his teeth in effort. The gladiator swings its mace. Dalton parries at the last second. He dodges a kick. The monster tries to stomp him. Dalton realizes his attack wasn't deep enough. He retreats. The gladiator leaps after him. Dalton analyzes the attack pattern. He notices the mana infused in the weapon. He decides to use the environment. He asks his teammates if they're just going to watch. The other knights explain they were ordered to stand by. Dalton understands. He asks for a small favor. The gladiator looms over him. The blue-haired student looks worried. The knights on the wall brace for impact. Dalton compliments the plan. He stands ready as the monster charges. He prepares to parry. He dashes forward. The monster roars. Dalton strikes. He dodges a massive shield bash. He lands gracefully. The monster swings its chain, but the wall behind the monster explodes. Dalton delivers the finishing blow. The monster falls, defeated. Dalton sighs in relief. He looks at the damaged wall, hoping his boss won't mind. The knights praise his skill. Dalton scratches his head, embarrassed. He looks over at the main fight. Our boy and the commander are still going at it. The commander is enjoying himself too much. He grabs the air, summoning dark energy. He powers up further. They clash again. Sparks fly. The noble parries a strike. The commander swings wildly. Our boy grips his sword tight. He goes for a slash. A massive energy wave cuts across the field. The commander lies on the ground, laughing. The kid looks down at him. The villain gets up, furious. The guildmaster prepares his new skill. Suddenly, a red error screen appears. He looks shocked. Forbidden attribute detected, so the skill is terminated. The commander approaches, confused. The system searches for an alternative. Our boy panics as the skill vanishes. He needs a replacement fast. He decides to finish the fight before the timer runs out. He raises his sword. They charge at each other. A massive beam of light descends. Their swords clash one last time. The commander screams as his blade breaks. The impact shatters the ground. The enemy is blown back. His eyes flash. He reaches out. The young master stares him down. The commander pulls out a new sword. It's a flying sword. Our boy looks surprised. The commander attacks with renewed vigor, so the kid summons his own telekinetic swords. The commander doesn't even notice them. Our boy surrounds him with blades. He smiles, ready to end it. The swords rain down, but the commander deflects them with a blast of energy. He laughs maniacally. He swings a massive axe-like weapon. A huge slash of energy flies at the noble. The commander mocks his tricks. The guildmaster looks serious. His eyes glow. He summons a giant energy blade. He flicks his finger. The blade descends. The commander flinches. He tries to block with his axe. The energy blade cuts through his defense. The commander is engulfed in light. He screams in pain. The light fades. The enemy is left kneeling. A massive shadow looms over him. The noble delivers a final, crushing blow. The commander is slammed into the ground. His armor shatters. He looks up in rage. Our boy realizes his sword won't cut the armor. He decides to use blunt force. The commander grins despite the pain. A sword descends from the sky. The guildmaster calls him Imperial Scum. The sword impales the commander. A massive explosion rocks the battlefield. The commander falls. He lies defeated in a crater. Our boy sighs, exhausted. A notification appears. He levels up. He wonders why he acquired a paladin skill. He checks the skill description. It's a top-tier active skill. Mass Purify, Bless, and Heal. He is confused but happy. He hit the jackpot. He looks at the fallen commander. He admits the enemy was skilled. Dalton walks over. He congratulates his leader. He mentions that the remaining enemies are dealt with. Dalton gives credit to the boss. Sir Philip approaches. He praises Dalton's performance. The student is humble but pleased. Dalton and Philip share a look of respect. Philip spots something. A soldier approaches. Philip reports the mission is a flawless success. The guildmaster asks if there were any issues. Philip confirms the prisoners were secured. Arson Carrington stares in disbelief. He realizes this kid is the guildmaster. He asks if Dalton was a hostage. Dalton confirms the rumor. Arson is shocked. Our boy confirms the mission is complete. He clenches his fist, satisfied with the new skill. Later, in a meeting room, Philip reports on the prisoners. The young master asks about their condition. Philip explains a spell wipes their minds upon capture. Jerry DePlank is mentioned. Extracting info will be hard. The guildmaster is frustrated. He asks how they infiltrated. He suspects a deeper plot. He needs better intelligence. He sees a reflection in his teacup. He decides to leave it to the kingdom for now. Tomorrow is the knighting ceremony. This is where they make their debut. The boss wants to make a statement. He plans to spread their name to the empire. He envisions ruling the continent. The next day, a carriage arrives. Flags wave in the wind. The crowd cheers. They spot the young master. Fans scream for him. He waves with a celebrity smile. Josh looks nervous. People cheer for the red-haired knight. Girls wave at him. He is confused by the attention. Philip tells him to get used to it. The guildmaster encourages him. Josh smiles, grateful. The crowd chants for House Ashton. The first guild enters the arena. The massive coliseum is packed to the brim. Flags of noble houses fly high. Knights line up. People gossip about the new guild. Other knights are jealous. The blonde noble smiles, enjoying the attention. He wants them to feel threatened. A man approaches him. It's a blonde noble. He introduces himself. I am Jerry DePlunk, Minister of Finance. He smiles politely. He mentions the guildmaster's exploits. He claims to be a fan. He says arranging a meeting was hard. Another noble stands beside him. Our boy greets them politely. He analyzes Jerry. The man seems friendly on the surface. The young master thanks him for the support. He knows Jerry is testing him, so he asks a pointed question. He asks about the ministry blocking his guild. He asks if Jerry knows anything about the infiltration. Jerry feigns ignorance. He claims the ministry acted properly. The kid presses him. Then he walks away with his men. Jerry watches him go, his smile fading. He clenches his fist until it bleeds. His expression turns demonic. He vows to ruin the upstart noble. Our boy thinks about the encounter. He knows Jerry is dangerous. He readies himself for the ceremony. A hooded figure approaches. A tournament official calls candidates. Knights prepare for sparring. Josh is eager. The boss tells them to show their strength. He wants to instill fear. His knights agree enthusiastically. The guildmaster stays behind to watch. He decides to deal with the stalker. He confronts the hooded man. The man looks surprised. The noble asks if he found what he was looking for. The man gasps. Our boy asks why he's sneaking around. The man reveals his face. He asks how long the noble knew. The man takes off his hood. The kid asks why Wings of Freedom is tailing him. He wants to talk. The guildmaster threatens him. The man is impressed. He introduces himself as Cain, faceless. Our boy smiles, recognizing him. Cain admits he was investigating. He warns the noble about the danger. He suspects a traitor in the kingdom, specifically the Imperial Hounds. He mentions the recent guild attacks. He suspects the Ministry of Finance. The evidence points to them. He confirms the noble's suspicions. Cain looks nervous. Our boy suggests Cain join the first guild. Cain is hesitant. The guildmaster offers him a choice. He proposes a mutually beneficial arrangement. Cain agrees to work as an informant. He slips away into the crowd. He calls the noble guildmaster. Cain jumps away. Our boy heads to the Coliseum. The arena is huge. A duel is in progress. Two knights clash. A Randall knight wins. The crowd cheers. The guildmaster joins his men. Only First Guild and Randall knights are undefeated. Josh is worried about the matchup. His boss reassures him. Josh is fighting a Randall prodigy. The leader looks confident. Josh stammers. Roy de Randall enters the arena. He looks arrogant. Our boy says Josh can handle it. He points out Roy is fighting a rookie. Josh flinches. The guildmaster tells him to prove them wrong. Josh nods, determined. He walks out to face Roy. Philip warns him Roy is out for blood. The signal is given. Roy stares him down. The crowd gasps. The First Guild faces House Randall. The match begins. Roy draws his sword. He approaches Josh. Josh realizes his opponent is strong. Roy is a prodigy. Josh grips his sword. He remembers his new status. He fights for the guild. Roy dashes forward. He strikes fast. Josh is surprised by the speed. They clash. Sparks fly. Josh parries everything. Roy gets frustrated. He trips Josh. Josh falls but rolls away. Roy curses him. Roy starts trash talking about commoners. He asks if Josh expects mercy. Josh stands up. He draws his sword properly. He declares that birthright means nothing here. He takes a stance. Roy is furious. He charges again. They clash violently. Roy calls him unimpressive. The other knights watch intently. They know Josh is holding back. Josh blocks again. He counters. Roy is pushed back. Roy attacks with fury. Josh dodges. He taunts Roy. Roy's face twists in anger. He gets kicked. Josh strikes. Roy barely blocks. Josh presses the attack. He moves faster. Roy panics. A flurry of strikes. Josh lands a hit. Roy stumbles. He is shocked. Josh asks what real combat is. He reminds Roy he started it. He tells Roy to yield. Roy refuses. He attacks again. Josh parries. He sidesteps. The crowd watches in awe. The 10th son is struggling. The crowd cheers for the underdog. Roy is humiliated. He lunges. Josh grabs his collar. He headbutts him. Roy reels back. Josh follows up with a slash. Roy is hit. Josh says, "That's how you use your head." Roy is bleeding. He calls it a cheap trick. He prepares a special move. Energy gathers around him. He powers up. He declares he won't play nice. He prepares shooting star. Josh looks nervous. The attack launches. A beam of light flies at Josh. Josh dodges at the last second. He looks surprised. Roy keeps attacking. He unleashes a barrage. Josh is pinned down. He parries the main strike. The energy dissipates. Josh stares him down. Roy smiles confidentially. Josh flips in the air. He lands behind Roy. He tells Roy he's sick of the noble talk. He delivers a final blow. Roy is sent flying. He crashes into the wall. The crowd goes wild. First Guild wins. Josh raises his fist. The crowd cheers his name. The Randalls are shocked. The First Guild flag waves. Josh smiles. The guildmaster nods in approval. Other nobles are impressed. Our boy smiles, knowing his plan is working. He orders his men to leave. He He heads to the Ministry of Finance. Two knights spar in the arena. A spear user attacks. A sword user blocks. They clash violently. The spear user is pushed back. He stumbles. The sword user attacks. He holds his blade at the spearman's throat. The match ends. The spearman yields. Victory for First Guild again. The knight stands tall. The vice captain and Philip celebrate. He dominated a high-level expert. The nobles watch with interest. The crowd cheers. Hurrah! A bearded noble comments. He recognizes some faces. Raoul watches the gathering political storms from the arena floor. The finance minister gestures toward the stadium floor, his voice dripping with that fake, calculated praise only a high-ranking politician could master. Count Melvin stands tall with his arms crossed, letting the sunlight catch his golden epaulets as he judges his youngest son's power. High above the arena, the observers finally start to realize that the first knights have built a reputation that's becoming impossible for the crown to ignore. Sir Madero sits on his throne of authority, eyes narrowed as he evaluates exactly what this new military order is capable of. The commander of the Royal Guard stands stoically by his side, his silver hair reflecting a lifetime of service and the weight of countless battles won for the kingdom. With the other great houses missing, nor the leaders realize this specific victory carries a much heavier weight than a normal ceremony. Defeating the elite Randall Knights is a massive feat that even most veteran soldiers would fail to achieve. Old Man Gray watches with a faint, knowing smile. Tension fills the VIP box, while high officials trade polite greetings that double as hidden warnings for the future of the kingdom. Sir Carson shifts his gaze toward the blonde heir, his crimson eyes burning with a sudden, dangerous curiosity that suggests he's found a new favorite toy. The association chairman drops a heavy question, demanding an honest assessment of what kind of man the boy actually is. The sage responds with a riddle, asking the legendary knight if he truly believes the kingdom is enjoying a period of peace. Carson stands his ground in gleaming, heavy armor, declaring that a true knight must remain ever vigilant against any potential threat. The ancient sage just smiles back, noting that such a predictable and rigid response is exactly what he expected from the kingdom's most famous and battle-hardened warrior. In a flash, he admits he's still unsure about the boy's depths. A sudden vision of rising darkness flickers through his mind, signaling that an existential threat is already looming just over the horizon for them all. Like a cheap jump scare, he sees images of hooded agents and mutated monsters, the literal harbingers of a war that's destined to consume the entire continent. Right after that, he gets the feeling that the young lord standing in the sand might be the only person strong enough to stop the nightmare. The First Guild banner snaps in the wind, serving as a symbol for a brand new era that's about to kick off. The kid stands tall, waiting for the formal induction. Before anyone can react, he clenches a fist, feeling that raw spiritual energy humming through his golden gauntlets as the mana breeze picks up speed. Up in the stands, Carson finds the sage's high praise for the rookie to be a point of extreme personal intrigue. The chairman rises from his seat, and his mere presence is enough to silence every noble in the building. This matters later. He's tempted to test the boy's reputation personally. He declares that fame means nothing compared to the actual strength a knight carries within their soul. Stepping toward the railing, he prepares to jump down and deliver a challenge that's about to flip the entire ceremony on its head. The announcer tries to call for order, but the royal knighting ceremony is abruptly cut short by the highest authority in the land, making a move toward the field. The blonde heir is ordered to step forward so the association chairman can address him directly in front of the crowd. Moving with a confident stride, his blue and gold uniform makes him look like a true commander, standing among mere commoners. Commoners erupt into cheers for their new hero. Carson raises a hand to stop the proceedings, leaving every official and knight on the field in a state of absolute shock. In one clean decision, he looms over the young heir, his silver hair and piercing crimson eyes creating a profile of terrifying power that seems to push the oxygen out of the arena. That fast, he requests a moment of the kid's time. Raoul stares back with a level gaze, internally wondering what the hell this legendary swordmaster is planning to say to him in front of the entire kingdom. The two warriors stand face to face, a sharp contrast of youthful potential and seasoned experience that the whole stadium watches in dead silence. Carson reaches for his hilt, and the sharp ring of steel leaving the scabbard echoes across the dusty arena floor like a death knell for the celebration. On gut instinct, he declares that since he's the one bestowing the title, he's going to test the First Guild with his own blade right now. With no warning, he asks the blonde master if he's actually brave enough to accept a public duel against a swordmaster in front of these witnesses. The tension finally snaps as the surrounding knights realize just how insane this challenge actually is. Wiping a bead of sweat from his temple, the kid can sense the overwhelming pressure radiating from the man, realizing he's currently standing in the path of a hurricane. Recognizing the Royal Guard crest, he knows that Carson's name is always at the top of the list for the world's finest knights. The next beat, he realizes that a swordmaster exists on a completely different level than any expert-tier dipshit opponent he's faced in this new life. This is likely the most dangerous opponent he'll ever face as Raoul Ashton, and one wrong move here could end his legend before it even begins. Carson mocks the boy's hesitation, suggesting that if the rumors were actually true, he would have jumped at the chance to fight. Competitive fire finally ignites in the boy's eyes as he realizes there's absolutely no way he can back down from this. Josh and the other recruits watch with bated breath, terrified that their lord has just walked into a lethal trap that he has zero chance of winning. Sir Philip looks on with a worried expression. The captain worries that every ounce of work they put into the guild's reputation could be deleted in a single humiliating moment. Standing alone with his back to his men, the young master feels the entire weight of the guild's future resting squarely on his shoulders as he makes his choice. Not even blinking, he offers a weary smile and chooses violence. With no sign, he turns to face the chairman, his presence filling the center of the arena with a sudden gravity that actually manages to catch the veteran off guard. Before anyone processes it, he declares the duel is a massive honor, drawing his signature blade, so the unique grade steel begins to hum with a brilliant and focused blue spiritual energy. The two combatants take their starting stances, and the crowd realizes they're about to witness the true highlight of the entire event. Carson warns the match must be worthy. The kid acknowledges the order, promising to try his best while secretly hiding the true extent of his telekinetic powers from the observers. Thousands of students and commoners lean over the railings, their unified cheers literally shaking the foundation of the massive stadium as the two legends prepare to collide. The chairman moves first as a silver blur. Raoul parries the opening strike, but the impact rattles his bones and sends a shower of sparks flying across the sand. Philip notes that high-level matches like this usually don't happen in the middle of a standard. Boring ceremony like this. A guild archer watches with narrowed eyes, noting that the chairman is clearly not holding back an ounce of his formidable and terrifying strength against the kid. Sir Jake grumbles about having to prove themselves. Philip tells the men to trust their lord's judgment, even as the massive shockwaves from the duel continue to rock the arena floor. Medeiros laughs from his seat in the box, admitting to himself that he might have accidentally put the boy in a death trap by running his mouth too much. He watches with a predatory grin, eager to see if the blonde heir can actually survive against a true swordmaster's might. Carson unleashes a relentless barrage of lightning-fast stabs, his blade moving with the fluid and effortless grace that only a master of the craft could possess. The kid is forced onto the defensive immediately. Leaping backward to create some much-needed distance, his cloak snaps in the wind while he prepares for a desperate counterattack. They clash again in the center of the field, their blades locked in a screeching struggle for dominance that sends more sparks flying. The boy flips through the air gracefully. He delivers a high-speed slash that forces the chairman to pivot his weight, showing that even a teenager can make a legend move his feet. Carson looks genuinely intrigued, admitting that the boy's reactions are much faster than those of any other trainee he's ever met. Gritting his teeth, the kid knows the second he stops attacking, the master will find a lethal opening and end it. For a brief second, he charges forward, sword crackling with electricity. The warriors trade blows in a blur of sparks and blue light, reaching speeds that go way beyond anyone's initial expectations. The heir notes with a scowl that the chairman is always staying exactly one step ahead of his next intended move. He finally realizes what a true swordmaster is actually capable of, and for the first time today, his usual arrogance starts to fade away into genuine respect. Determination burns in his blue eyes as he decides he must push his physical limits to the absolute breaking point if he wants to win this. Another thunderous clash throws up massive clouds of dust, obscuring the combatants from the cheering crowd for a brief and tense moment. Sliding under a massive swipe, his eyes search frantically for even the smallest flaw in the master's seemingly impenetrable posture. Carson senses a shift in the air. On reflex, they collide in a final explosion of pure mana, and the force of the impact actually cracks the stone floor beneath their feet. The blonde master heaves for breath, his stamina bar flashing red as he struggles to maintain his footing against the veteran. Carson stands perfectly calm, his aura turning the surrounding air into a physical weight that literally crushes the sand into the floor. Right then and there, he offers a small nod of genuine respect, noting that he now has a fair measure of the boy's skill and knows exactly what he's dealing with. Glowing rings of light suddenly materialize. The observers realize they can barely even follow the speed of the movements happening right in front of them today. Josh gasps in awe from the sidelines, finally realizing that the legendary rumors about the association chairman weren't just exaggerations. The guy is a monster. Raoul stands his ground, ready for more. Carson's eyes begin to glow with a faint and dangerous red light as he prepares to reveal the true objective of this sudden trial. Reflexes take over. He declares that leadership requires more than combat. No hesitation at all, he pulls a mysterious black cube from his inventory, and the strange artifact starts humming with a creepy spiritual spiritual energy. In a split second, he announces they'll now proceed to the next phase of the trial to determine the boy's true worth as a knight of the kingdom. The kid braces himself, wondering exactly what kind of magical pressure he's about to endure from this bizarre and ancient-looking device. The black cube expands in the master's hand, releasing shards of glowing blue mana that dance around his fingers like a miniature storm. Medeiros leans forward with a look of concern. Carson identifies it as a hybrid core, a dangerous artifact designed specifically for high-ranking paladins to detect the presence of black mana. He reveals the original plan was to use it to uncover Imperial spies who might have infiltrated the pool of contestants. The idea was abandoned due to instability. The chairman hovers the core over the arena, and the dark energy within it begins to rumble with a terrifying and unstable power. No hesitation at all. He tells the blonde master that he'd rather err on the side of caution before bestowing a title of such massive importance. That fast, he requests the boy's full cooperation, and his voice carries a weight that makes it absolutely impossible for anyone in the arena to refuse him. Raoul senses a familiar, corrupt energy. Massive pillars of black smoke erupt from the arena floor, forming into spectral hands that reach for the sky like ghosts from the underworld. The air flinches as the dark mana attempts to invade his system and test the purity of his spiritual power. A massive shockwave clears the entire field as the trial reaches its peak, blinding the onlookers with a brilliant white light that consumes the stadium. The scene shifts to the quiet hallways. Count Randall sits at his desk, his face a mask of pure and unadulterated fury as he hears about the Ashton victory. Gritting his teeth, he's unable to handle the realization that a mere boy has stolen the entire show and publicly humiliated his noble house. A tall officer stands behind him. Randall declares that the First Guild is going to prove to be their greatest nuisance from this point forward. In a snap, he reminds his subordinate that their grand plan kicks off tonight, and a small hiccup like this won't stop them. House Ashton poses a major threat. His eyes glow with a sinister light as he decides that the blonde heir must be eliminated before he gets any stronger. Then it happens. He looks at a portrait of the boy, knowing that the kid has already earned the absolute support of the common people. He mocks the idea of a hero. He pulls a jagged red mask from a secret drawer, the same one worn by the leaders of the Imperial strike force. Back at the arena, the dark mana from the core begins to dissipate, revealing Raoul still standing perfectly in the center. My students murmur in awe at his success. Philip and Josh rush toward their lord, heaving for breath and visibly relieved to see that he's still alive. Carson looks at the boy with a mix of shock and a newfound sense of respect for his incredible potential and mental fortitude. In the same breath, he wonders how a noble passed so easily. On raw instinct, he recites the teachings he's instilled in his own knights, noting that the boy has clearly taken every one of them to heart. Raoul raises his hand, and a brilliant golden radiance erupts from his gauntlet, crackling with a strange and divine energy. For a quick second, he fully commits to protecting the kingdom. The chairman is stunned, realizing the small boy knight possesses an even higher level of power than he ever imagined possible. A sonic boom clears the smoke. Now massive wings of light emerge from his back. Carson flinches in terror, wondering where a simple teenager could have possibly learned such ancient and holy magic. Standing amidst the floating feathers of light, the blonde lord looks like a messenger of God deciding who is worthy of life and death. In a snap, he holds his hand toward the chairman. Offering a small and confident smirk, he asks if he has finally managed to pass the master's test today. Josh bellows to the crowd that their lord is a literal messenger of God, and the stadium erupts into a deafening roar of approval. The people hail the First Guild as God's own army, and their gratitude toward the blonde master becomes absolute and unshakable. Carson turns away in disgrace, his pride shattered by a single strike from someone he originally considered a mere brat. The crowds chant the young noble's name until they are hoarse, creating a massive public display of his absolute and rising authority in Turium. Amid the chaos, they hail him as the guardian of the city, totally unaware that every single move he made was part of a larger plan for survival. Count Melvin watches with hidden, fatherly pride. Jerry DePlank turns to leave the balcony, his jaw set as he realizes he's accidentally picked a fight with a monster. In the middle of it all, he admits that he now understands why House Randall has been so incredibly wary of the boy's rapid growth. His face turns a sickly shade of gray as he swears to himself that things are about to get very interesting for everyone involved. The announcer officially recognizes the First Guild as the strongest order of sworn knights in the entire kingdom, cementing their status in history. Raoul steps forward to receive his medal, his shaggy hair catching the light of the morning sun as he accepts the honor. For a tiny moment, he offers a small, calculated smile to the crowd, knowing he's just secured another vital piece for his upcoming war. Dropping to one knee before the chairman, he maintains his humble, noble persona for the sake of the official induction ceremony. Carson raises his sword over the boy. He asks if the commander of the First Knights will pledge his loyalty to the kingdom and the king himself. Raoul closes his eyes and swears the oath, his voice steady and full of a lethal, hidden purpose. The knights stand in a perfect line. In the middle of the chaos, they swear to always hone their skills with humility and abide by the Royal Knight's code of honor forever. Carson completes the ceremony, his voice sounding heavy with the weight of the responsibility he's bestowing on the kid today. No pause. He prays that the blonde master will always remain strong, honorable, and loyal to the prosperity of the Reuben Kingdom. The kid touches the medal on his chest, knowing that he is now officially the most dangerous and influential man in the city of Turium. The trial is officially over, as the chairman acknowledges the boy and his men as the new royal knights of Reuben. The next beat, Medeiros approaches his colleague, asking what he truly thinks of the youngest Ashton heir after that display. Carson offers no reply, only a sharp and steady gaze that says he is still assessing the situation very carefully. In a heartbeat, he admits that the boy is a massive annoyance, but one that might be absolutely necessary to save the kingdom from a total collapse. Medeiros smiles with a fake warmth, noting that he intends to keep a very close eye on the guild's progress from now on. He notes that there are 3 specific things that trouble him about the sage's words regarding the coming threat. With calm precision, he looks at the boys retreating back, wondering if he will truly be their savior or their greatest threat imaginable. The 2 commanders walk through the palace halls, their footsteps echoing with the weight of their hidden and dangerous calculations. Carson asks about threats from the king. For a split second, he looks at a portrait of Alfredo Gray, remembering the sage's warning about the Empire's massive infiltration network. Medeiros rubs his chin in thought. In the middle of it all, he believes that the sage can already feel the threat encroaching upon the capital as they speak in the hallway today. Moments later, he warns that a disaster so grave and absolute is coming that they will desperately need a savior just to survive. With chilling calm, he turns to his fellow knight, his expression showing that he isn't interested in any more idle speculation or meaningless rumors about the future. With dead calm, he notes that should the blonde master ever turn against them, he would be the greatest threat imaginable to the royal throne. Carson steps into his private office, and his presence alone is enough to silence the servants waiting in the shadows. He notes the boy hasn't changed bit. Offering a predatory grin, he notes that the war with the Empire will officially begin tonight, in the shadows. Morning arrives at the academy grounds. Steel rings out across the sand as a secret training session begins under the heavy cover of the early morning mist. Josh charges forward with a roar, his blade moving with a speed that actually catches his douchebag opponent off guard for once. Philip stands like a mountain, absorbing the blow with zero effort. This veteran is still miles ahead of the rookie. A simple wrist flip disarms the recruit. Soon after, he laughs at the boy's frustration, noting that while his attacks are powerful, they are far too obvious for a real fight. Simple tactics won't win against veterans. He tells the recruit that boldness serves well on the battlefield, but experience will always be king in a duel. Josh acknowledges the advice with a nod, his red hair damp with sweat as he prepares for the next round of training. Sir Jake stands by the fence, watching the training with a smug grin and his massive greatsword resting on his shoulder. Straight away, he tells the kid to start leading by example, now that people have joined the guild because of his victory. Without delay, he declares that the first guild will be dealing with nothing but high-level troublemakers and rivals from this point forward. The kid looks over his growing empire's ledgers. No time to waste. He notes that their success with the ceremony was well worth the effort and gold spent. He's building something bigger. Bernard stands behind him with a serious expression, reporting a sudden and drastic expansion of the guild's membership. The butler asks if there's a specific reason why they're rushing to recruit so many new members this week without a proper vetting process. The young lord offers a small and cryptic smirk, asking the man if he truly thinks the expansion is rushed today. On reflex, he looks out the window, eyes narrowed as he watches the carriages arriving at the academy gates in the distance. He mentions that while things have been peaceful for many years, he wonders how much longer that peace will actually last. In the noise, he reveals that in just 5 days, an incident will occur that will threaten this entire era of peace and change the kingdom forever. The scene cuts to the throne room as Carson bows low before a young man sitting arrogantly upon the royal chair. A second later, he reports that he was simply doing his duty in testing the boy on behalf of the crown today. Prince Gerard looks down with a predatory smile, his red hair and purple uniform marking his high royal status for everyone to see. In a split second, he asks for the name of the guild again, his voice full of a hidden and dangerous interest in the First Order. Carson confirms the name, noting that they were the only participants to remain completely undefeated throughout the entire tournament. Gerard watches from a distance. In the middle of it all, he recognizes the boy's immense talent, ever since he was admitted to the academy at the top of his class years ago. A memory of the first gate appearing flashes on the screen, showing the absolute chaos that originally engulfed the city. The kid is shown personally leading the charge against the monster horde, his blade carving through a swarm of green-skinned orcs. Reports reveal that he even took down the Empire's infiltration unit that had slipped through one of the portals in the confusion. Gerard clenches his fist in realization. In that moment, he suggests that perhaps the crown should award the guild with a medal to ensure their permanent loyalty to the throne. The prince offers a bright and manic grin, noting that he'd like to visit them personally to commend their efforts. Carson flinches, knowing that the prince's interest usually precedes a total disaster for anyone unlucky enough to be involved. One beat later, he informs His Highness that the first knights are currently prohibited from entering a number of gates in the capital. Gerard is stunned and demands answers. Carson admits that it was at the request of Count Randall, who is currently responsible for the city's defense. The prince grits his teeth in fury, declaring that the kingdom needs every capable knight it has to survive the crisis. In a split second, he declares that such petty power struggles cannot be allowed, and he intends to have a very stern word with the Randall family himself. A boar monster is cut down elsewhere. The team pushes through the melee, noting that these rank D monsters are surprisingly aggressive and organized during the battle today. Another massive beast lunges from the smoke, its red eyes glowing with a mindless and eternal hunger for human flesh. Raoul reappears above the motherfucking monster's head, his golden armor reflecting the flickering light of the magic breach. For a tiny moment, he delivers a relentless barrage of slashes that sends monster parts flying in every direction across the narrow path. Without thinking twice, he lands light, his gaze cold as he surveys the field of fallen enemies before the open gateway. Just out of nowhere, he notes that if these guys make it outside the gate, they will throw the entire capital into a state of total and irreversible chaos. In one smooth motion, they must deal with the horde. Standing amidst the floating debris, the blonde master looks like a predator deciding who gets to live another day. The next second, a squad of hooded Imperial agents descends from the walls, their weapons glowing with a corrupt red mana. Sir Jake springs into action, his heavy blade carving a path through the agents with a single and casual strike. Sir Piers fires 3 arrows at once, pinning the attackers to the soil before they can even draw their steel blades. Our boy stands at the head of his army, noting that there's no end to the monsters, and it'll take forever with just swords. He warns the men that this is just the entrance, and they haven't even truly begun the main battle of the dungeon yet. Josh looks around with a mix of excitement and raw terror, asking if they will truly be able to clear this gate. The Lord offers a dark smile. The next second, a pair of boots touches down in the dust, and a familiar voice apologizes for being late to the fight. Nakia walks into the light, her blonde hair catching the first light of the morning sun as she approaches her lord. Raoul greets her with a warm nod. Aish, relieved to see his master alchemist, has arrived safely at the battlefield to help the guild. No stalling. He asks her to show them how much she has honed her skills since joining the Order of the Golden Bear in the past. Shum. Nakia raises a glowing potion, her eyes igniting with a brilliant golden light as she prepares an alchemical incantation. Without delay, she leaps into the air with a speed that defies her status as a non-combatant scholar and researcher. Her eyes burn with a golden fire as she activates the most powerful spell beneath the gods today. A massive impact levels the center of the monster horde, throwing the armored boars back with an overwhelming and crushing force. The beasts flinch in terror, unable to comprehend the scale of the destruction being unleashed upon them by a single girl. A massive purple dragon manifests from the alchemical vapor, its roar shaking the very foundation of the dungeon for miles. Philip and Josh watch in total shock, realizing that alchemy-infused magic can strengthen mana to an incredible and scary level. The dragon sweeps through the ranks. The guardian of the gate lets out a final squeal of agony before being consumed by the purple alchemical flames. Raoul grins, knowing that recruiting Nakia was the greatest decision he has made for the guild's combat power so far. The alchemist lands perfectly, heaving for breath as she wipes a single bead of sweat from her forehead after the spell. Just like that, she asks with a hesitant voice if her performance was too much for the unofficial mission they're currently on. The young lord reassures her, noting that having a powerful mage on their side takes the guild to the next level. In the middle of it all, he declares that from now on, Nakia will be the greatest trump card for the first guild in any conflict they face. Jake laughs and pats her shoulder. The core team stands before the smoldering ruins of the portal, appearing as a disciplined wall of iron and magic power. The kid looks toward the horizon, declaring that it is time to hunt down the C-rank gate's true guardian once and for all. Back at the palace, Jerry DePlank bows low before Prince Gerard, offering a polite but incredibly cold greeting to royalty. The prince offers a predatory smile, noting that he did not come expecting formalities from the Randall family today of all days. The matter at hand is urgent. Stone calm, he reveals that it has come to his attention that House Randall requested the first knights be banned from the gates. In the mayhem, he demands an explanation for how such a decision came to be during a time of national crisis for the kingdom. Sir Randall claims that the access ban is merely a measure to ensure the efficient management of the capital's defense and security. Gerard mocks the explanation, declaring that they need every fighting man they can spare to face the monsters invading invading their land. Gate access restrictions are now revoked. Right on the spot, he orders that every knight and mercenary in the capital must devote themselves fully to defending the city walls from invasion. Randall bows, but his eyes glow. With quiet control, he grits his teeth in pure hatred, swearing that he will wipe those smug smiles off their faces very soon. Without a thought, he mentions the Ashtons and the First Guild as the main obstacles to his family's absolute and total dominance over the region. The scene shifts back to the dungeon as the team navigates a narrow and treacherous canyon path through the dark. Josh grumbles about the terrain, noting that he can barely swing his sword in such a cramped and dark space. Nakia wobbles on the rocks, her focus on maintaining the group's magical lighting rather than her own unstable footing. No pause, she slips on a jagged stone, but Josh catches her by the hand just before she can fall into the blackness. The recruit blushes and warns her. Philip sighs at the goofy behavior, noting that the red-haired rookie is the only one who truly needs to focus right now. Our boy scans the environment for threats. Without delay, he recalls his meeting with the city guard captain, realizing this unofficial mission was a point of high risk for them. In one smooth motion, he notes that at this rate, the team will be drained of energy before they even reach the main guardian chamber. Nakia asks for a recovery moment. Without thinking twice, she offers a bright and encouraging smile, hoping to help the weary knights regain their strength before the next big fight. With calm precision, she pulls a concentrated potion from her bag, the pink liquid humming with a soft and soothing mana for everyone. Philip chugs the entire bottle alone. His eyes ignite with a brilliant blue light as the raw power of the medicine surges through his entire skeleton and muscles. With a cold calm, he bellows in excitement, feeling a tremendous power that he has never experienced in his long life as a knight. Nakia sighs in frustration, explaining that the potion was supposed to be taken in small and measured doses for everyone. Raoul smiles, noting that while the behavior was reckless, it proved the girl's pure alchemical skill is legendary. Muscle memory kicks in. He is satisfied to have secured such a master-tier crafter for his own private guild empire today of all days. Before anyone processes it, he orders the team to keep moving now that everyone is up and running again thanks to the masterclass medicine. A massive, maned boar monster lunges from the shadows, its tusks glowing with a corrupt and dark energy that poisons the air. The scene shifts to the city dungeons as two guards stand watch over a heavily reinforced and locked gate. For one breath, they flinch as a shadowy figure approaches. Kane drops his hood, introducing himself as an informant who was hoping to speak with the prisoner in private tonight. Instinctively, he enters the cell, his gaze sharp and full of hidden calculations as he looks at the tied-up Imperial spy. For a second, he asks if the spy cooperates. The spy mocks the master of information, asking why he is serving some noble brat who only pretends to be a knight. In one breath, he dares the boss to break him. Kane offers no verbal reply, only a cold and steady gaze that says he is done playing games with the prisoner. In a snap, he reveals a mysterious silver pendant, and the artifact begins glowing with a soft and hypnotic blue light that fills the room. In that moment, he explains that this item paralyzes a person's ego in order to make them confess every single secret they have hidden. The prisoner screams in agony as the mana begins to purge his willpower from his mind and soul in an instant. Kane stares at the First Guild banner, declaring that he no longer belongs to the Wings of Freedom Intelligence Network today. He notes that torture is not his way, but he must follow the Guildmaster's rules to obtain the data. The spy's eyes turn a blank white as the artifact finishes its work, leaving him a mindless puppet for the Guild. Kane rummages through his pockets, satisfied to have finally obtained the ultimate objective that the hounds were originally sent to fetch. He notes that the First Guild does not need to offer bribes when they have such superior equipment and magic artifacts. He wonders how long the Empire can hide. The artifact flashes with a brilliant light, erasing the last few hours of memory from the prisoner's mind forever and always. The master spy walks out of the dungeon, leaving the broken man behind to contemplate his absolute and total defeat. But he notes that the information he obtained tonight confirms that a war is about to begin, right in the heart of the capital city. The pendant flashes one last time, a final symbol of the hidden power that Raoul has assembled for himself in the dark. Back in the canyon, the knights stop in their tracks as they discover a massive dungeon entrance carved into the rock. He notes it's still under construction. With a steady calm, he warns that if they don't eliminate the Guardian quickly, the entire topography of the region will change for the worse. Philip worries that monsters on a whole different level will start pouring into the capital very soon if they fail. The captain clenches his fist ready. Raoul looks at his team, feeling that everything is falling into place way too conveniently for his own personal liking lately. In all the chaos, he suspects someone is trapping them. No time to waste, he orders the men to take some time to prepare and be thorough before walking into the unknown darkness ahead. No pause. He wonders if he is overthinking the situation, but he decides to maintain his cold and calculated resolve no matter what happens. Two masked figures watch from the ramparts above, and their presence is barely detectable. These guys are the real threat later. Raoul leads the final charge emerge into the cavern, his lantern casting long shadows against the dusty stone walls. Sir Homer warns the men not to let their guard down, sensing a faint but dangerous threat nearby in the dark. Josh stares at the massive scale. Philip explains that dungeons are created by dense clusters of mana, and their form shifts with the mana's flow over time. Nakia spots some glowing moss curiosity. The captain notes that the girl doesn't seem the least bit nervous, despite the hostile energy in the air right now. The young noble notes that for an early-stage dungeon, the danger level is far too low to be natural. While everything erupts around them, they discover a massive stone lock embedded in the rock, humming with a high-tier magical suppression spell that blocks their way. Josh points toward a massive magic circle that has suddenly ignited on the wall before them today, glowing with a weird energy. The circle is powerful and glowing red, signaling the activation of a highest-level control spell that's about to change things. Like a jump scare, a swarm of hooded figures with red eyes descends from the ceiling, their weapons already in mid-swing for an attack. Nakia gasps in terror as the ambush catches the entire group off guard in the narrow and dark hallway of the canyon. A masked leader identifies himself as an Imperial Hound, thanking the knights for saving them the trouble of hunting them down. Raoul realizes that the Imperial Strike Force has infiltrated this place too, and his jaw sets in a lethal purpose. For one breath, he notes that the red magic circle was used to suppress the dungeon's mana and lure them into this specific trap. He draws his blade and wonders. The scene shifts to a royal meeting as a second man in high noble clothing approaches Prince Gerard with respect. In the middle of the chaos, he identifies himself as the third prince, Herdian de Ruben, and offers a polite bow to his older brother in the hall. Gerard asks why he has returned from the border, noting that the royal family was ordered to remain in the palace. Herdian offers his apologies, claiming he had urgent matters to discuss with Count Randall regarding gate suppression and capital defense. The prince warns that even in an emergency, a royal command is still a royal command and must be followed without exception. While everything hits the fan, he suspects that his brother acted of his own accord and may have been influenced by the youngest Ashton Master's actions. Raoul is shown in full armor, his reputation as a hero among the common people reaching a peak in the capital city. Herdian's eyes glow with a faint gold light as he asks if they should finally take action against the Ashtons soon. Gerard orders him to summon Viscount Plank in secret to discuss the next phase of their grand and dangerous plan for power. The red magic circle rumbles. Philip shouts in frustration as the Imperial Hounds reveal that they have been hiding in here for days waiting for them. The masked leader offers a mocking smile, suggesting that the knights have walked straight into a lethal and final trap today. The boss realizes something is off. He asks Nakia if the magic circle is intended for mana suppression, or if it has a much more sinister purpose. The alchemist confirms that the dagger artifact embedded in the center is amplifying the spell's effect even further than before. A line of hooded agents blocks the path toward the exit, their numbers increasing with every passing second that the fight continues. The young noble mocks the meager force, asking if they truly believe they can stand against the royal knights of Ruben today. The imperial leader laughs, declaring that even their deaths are part of a greater design to burn the kingdom down forever. The two factions leap into action, and the narrow hallway erupts into a chaotic and frantic melee of steel and magic. Philip clears the front line with a single strike, his heavy blade carving through the agent's defenses with total and absolute ease. Piers fires 2 arrows at once with impossible precision, sniping the mages before they can finish their ritual and cause more trouble. Nakia watches the artifact, her eyes widening as she realizes another spell has been cast on the dagger in the center. One of the agents falls to his knees, his body beginning to dissolve into ash as he delivers a final warning. The dagger pulses with violent energy. Nakia screams for everyone to run, identifying a link spell and a self-destruct enchantment. This is going to hurt later. Right away, she warns that if the caster falls, all the dungeon mana that has been building up will suddenly detonate and kill them. The knights share a look of raw panic as the entire dungeon begins to shake from the massive and rising pressure. Raoul narrows his eyes, sensing a terrifying presence approaching from deep within the dungeon's heart that makes the previous monsters look like bugs. A heavy stomp rattles the very foundation of the canyon, and a massive shadow looms over the exit path like a nightmare. The team freezes in confusion as the B-rank gate guardian finally steps into the flickering light of their lanterns. Raoul bellows for everyone to run toward the ravine to avoid being caught in the impending magical explosion. No second thoughts, he looks toward the manned Borman champion, realizing it is far too strong to be defeated in just a few hits today. A massive jagged axe slams down. The beast lets out a roar of pure hunger, its red eyes fixed on the blonde air with a mindless fury. The scene shifts back to the palace as Count Melvin stands alone in the moonlight, his expression looking incredibly grim. Prince Gerard stands by the window, his voice full of a hidden and dangerous ambition for the royal throne and total power. There and then, he admits bringing Carson was was risk. Herdian approaches from behind, asking when the plan they spoke of will finally come to pass in the capital city of Reuben. Gerard turns toward him with a dark grin, reminding him that patience is the only thing needed to realize their ambitions. No time wasted, he looks toward the arena, knowing that the Ashton boy has unintentionally provided the perfect distraction for his coming coup. For a heartbeat, he declares that he entered the palace tonight with a lighter heart than ever before in his long life as a prince. See, his eyes glow with a sinister golden light as he prepares to taste the fruits of his hidden and complex operations. The team sprints through the hallway. Raoul shouts for his knights to make for the ravine the moment they clear the final set of stairs. The gate guardian leaps into path. Philip acknowledges the threat, warning the others not to underestimate the champion just because of its rank in the book. A new quest window pings in vision, tasking him with the elimination of the Mandborman champion right now. In an instant, he realizes the boss is a trap. With dead calm, he admits to himself that he let his guard down and walked directly into the Empire's most elaborate trap yet in this life. Knights prepare for a final stand. Raoul warns that these monsters are not something they can just take down in a few casual strikes today. For a split second, he looks at the golden bracelet. However, he realizes he still cannot fully control the armor, and if it goes berserk, it could put his men in danger. Nakia watches him with concern, her hands trembling as she realizes they are truly surrounded by the motherfucking monster horde right now. She steps forward with a steady voice, declaring that she'll try to stop the monsters and clear a path for the knights herself. By reflex, she pulls out a final glowing vial, and the purple liquid within it rumbles with a high-tier alchemical force for the fight. The kid flinches as she overextends. Cool as ice, he orders his men to fall back from the alchemist and make sure the guardian does not interfere with her casting. For the briefest moment, he admits they have zero other choice but to count on Nakia's legendary magic to save the guild and everyone else today. The girl's aura ignites with a blinding golden radiance, and the mana wind whips her blonde hair around her focused face. The Mandborman champion lunges forward with a roar. This is the moment the girl proves her worth for the future battles. Nakia's eyes turn a brilliant white as she activates her most forbidden technique, the dragon's incantation, and floods the room with mana. Beasts flinch in raw animal terror. The kid stares in awe, but never imagining that the alchemist's magic had reached such a truly incredible and high level of power already. The purple dragon manifests and slaughters. Outside the gate, 2 Randall guards yawn in boredom, complaining about their late relief shift at the border of the district. Randall knights are shirking their duties. Without warning, a shadowy figure blurs past them, and a single slash ends the conversation with a cold and silent precision. The gate is completely secured as a masked man stands among the fallen guards, his eyes glowing with red energy. In a split second, he pulls the white mask from his face, declaring that it is time to blow up the gate and end the Ashton line. Kane watches the interaction from a safe distance, his expression showing that he has found everything he needed today in the city. Hyde, the spy prisoner, lies blankly. The master spy realizes that the infiltrations and the guild hunts were never mere provocations but actual groundwork for a war. He looks toward the palace, knowing that the final battle for the kingdom will begin tonight in the shadows of the city. Back in the arena ruins, the Lord watches as the dragon's fire levels the remaining motherfucking monster defenses in one single move. He notes that everything the Empire did was to lay the groundwork for a war they intended to win with easy logic. In that moment, he holds the artifact, weighing the power against the cost Nakia paid. She's going to be out of commission for a while. The purple dragon lets out a final thunderous roar before dissipating into a swirl of blue lightning and fading shadow in the air. Philip and the other knights look around in total shock, heaving for breath as the dust finally begins to settle around the bodies. Raoul wonders if that single strike was enough to take down the Guardian in one shot and end the quest. Like a cheap jump scare, the Mandborman champion lunges from the smoke, its armor charred but its fury still absolute and lethal for the survivors. Raoul meets the attack head-on, their blades clashing in a shower of sparks that rattle the entire foundation of the dungeon. Brute force is fucking neutralized by skill. Before anyone blinks, he bellows for his men to not let the Guardian through the exit path at any cost during the fight. Nakia pours remaining mana into blessing. 3 armored boars leap toward the girl, their tusks bared for a final and desperate stand against the master alchemist. So Raoul screams her name, his focus shifting away from the boss just as a heavy blow catches him in the chest. The kid is thrown back into the rock. The Guardian towers over him, its eyes reflecting the dark and twisted magic that keeps the undead thing alive and fighting. A massive purple explosion clears the sand as another potion detonates, throwing the beasts back with an overwhelming and crushing force. Nakia stands firm amidst the fire, her blonde hair catching the first light of the morning sun rising over the trees. The kid looks up in total disbelief, realizing the girl has actually defeated the elite monsters all on her own, without any help from him. Without thinking, she wobbles on her feet as the mental and physical toll of her magic finally takes its final toll soul upon her system. Honor Josh rushes over and catches her just before she can hit the ground, his voice full of a rare and genuine concern. Philip acknowledges she grew beyond expectations. The young master helps his men back to their feet, declaring that Nakia has done well and has officially saved the entire guild today. The champion lets out a final roar. The royal knights of Reuben form a wall of iron around their master, refusing to let him face the boss alone in his state. Philip delivers a crushing slash that shatters the monster's shield and sends it stumbling back into the dark of the cavern. Without thinking twice, he asks if his lord can fight. With calm precision, he notes that while the creature is powerful, it is simply another challenge for the first knights to overcome together as a team. Raoul stands tall, his shaggy blonde hair catching the light of the morning sun as it rises over the dungeon walls. Before anyone blinks, he suspects Gerard's hidden motives. The young lord orders the knights to select 2 expeditionary forces to report the situation to his father and the capital immediately. In a snap, he has a bad feeling about royalty. The gate guardian swings its axe in a final arc, intended to level everything in its path with a blast of dark energy. Raoul meets the attack head-on with a roar of his own, his blade crackling with the full power of his spiritual energy. Pure instinct, they collide in a brilliant white light that throws a massive shockwave across the entire battlefield, and finally silences the noise of the cave. The beast finally succumbs to its wounds, its giant corpse hitting the ground with a bone-jarring and thunderous thud for everyone to hear. One final impact levels the remaining dungeon defenses, signaling the absolute end of the unofficial gate mission for the First Guild. The kid stands amidst the rubble, his golden armor reflecting the first light of a kingdom that's currently on the verge of a total collapse. Philip bellows for order for the return. The young noble notes with a clench of his jaw that he didn't cut deep enough to erase the Empire's influence today of all days. Looking toward the horizon, he knows that the real war with Prince Gerard and the Randall family has only just begun for him. Without even blinking, he realizes that the champion may have been the strongest yet, but he is more than ready for the next phase of his plan. A dark and confident grin touches his lips as he decides to use his new position to rewrite history once again in Turium. His knights share a laugh, celebrating their hard-earned victory over the most dangerous monsters in the northern frontier of the land. The kid raises his fist toward the rising sun, his authority as the guardian of the kingdom, now absolute and unshakable for the people. No hesitation at all, he stands as a pillar of golden power, looking toward the city gates as a new legend is officially born in the city. No second thoughts, he admits that he is still a little uneasy about the prince's interest, but he won't be anyone's puppet in this life or the next. In an instant, he declares mission's end. The massive red monstrosity lunges for one last strike as the screen fades to black on a final and thunderous impact that shakes the world. The boar's defense finally shatters. Raoul takes a wide starting stance, his eyes narrowing as he locks onto the target for the final exchange of the raid. A high-speed strike levels the surrounding terrain with a violent burst of raw spiritual energy. Blue light flares in the master's eyes as he tracks every predictable move of the foolish attacker. Nearby, the rookie recruit sticks close to the alchemist to keep her safe during the chaos. Sir Philip and the archer watch with bated breath, knowing their lord is pushing his vessel to the absolute limit to secure this win. Steel rings through the cavern as the blonde master locks blades with the guardian for the final time. Realizing his telekinetic power is more than enough, the fighter manipulates the beast's axe. A wave of blue force channels into the monster's own blade to turn its massive weight against the mindless attacker. The monstrosity hits the floor with bone-jarring impact. A massive shockwave clears the entire field as the beast is driven deep into the stone with overwhelming strength. A roar commands the men to finish it now. Sir Piers lets an arrow fly with supernatural accuracy, pinning the monster's hide to the soil. Philip and the other knights plunge into the fray with glowing, lethal blades. Relentless slashes send motherfucking monster parts flying in every direction across the path. Golden gauntlets materialize around the hero's arms, crackling with a high-tier lightning. With a high-speed slash, the blonde air cleaves through the defense and ends the fight in an instant. Walking away from the rubble, the gate is clear. The knight captain notes that the victory was well worth the gold and effort spent on the raid. A sudden shift in the air catches the team off guard as the guild's telepathic channel activates with an urgent signal. Meanwhile, in the capital city, the aftermath of a violent betrayal leaves loyal soldiers scattered across the cold stones. The king of Reuben holds his fallen son as the rebellion crushes his spirit. Prince Herdian watches the slaughter with cold eyes, fully convinced that his time to rule the kingdom has finally arrived. Rebel forces surround the throne room with drawn swords. Standing amidst masked agents, the prince looks like a predator deciding who gets to live. Drawing his signature blade, the prince declares that the kingdom will finally welcome an era of peace. Mr. Carson carves through the traitors with the surgical precision of a true master, refusing to let the palace fall easily. The two warriors clash in a blur of sparks and blue light that rattles the foundations of the room. Herdian mocks the chairman's persistence, claiming that every obstacle to his revolution has already been cleared from his path. The king is escorted toward a secret exit with a face of total digital disbelief. The red-haired prince narrows his eyes as his plan for the capital nears its climax. The master and his elite knights sprint toward the city gates, sensing a massive surge of dark mana from the palace. The blonde heir blurs through the air with a grace that makes his heavy armor look like a second skin. Relentless slashes eliminate every hooded intruder in sight. Standing amidst the fallen enemies, the warrior realizes that the butler was right about the state of the outskirts. Josh and Piers help the wounded alchemist to her feet as they prepare for the final dash toward the royal palace. A shadowy figure steps out from the dust to report that the Imperial strike force has moved openly into the city. A vision of Count Randall reveals the true masterminds behind the kingdom's sudden collapse. Our boy narrows his eyes, deciding to tear up the script and forge a new future today. Philip grits his teeth in fury at the fact that House Randall has allied themselves with the Empire. The core team stops to catch their breath, knowing they must finish this conflict before the sun rises over the city. A blue icon flashes in the peripheral vision as a familiar spirit requests a high-tier mana stone. Labelle emerges from the glowing book, her aura igniting with a brilliant green light as she absorbs the energy. The library fairy offers a confident grin, noting that she is finally overflowing with mana. Looking at his trusty helper, the knight realizes her magic will be the key to bypassing the palace's heavy defenses. Royal palace lights flicker in the distance as the city enters a state of total crisis. Commander Marco stands firm with his sword drawn, protecting the innocent villagers from the rebel advance despite the overwhelming odds. Surrounded by hooded hounds, the commander refuses to listen to their lies. A final stand is prepared since former allies can no longer be counted on for any help. Like a jump scare, Dalton Templeton descends from the shadows, his blue blades carving through the agents like silk. The blue-haired genius stands before the crowd. The commander's shock is dismissed with a casual smirk from the man who finds this rebellion to be a massive headache. Two warriors stand face to face as a contrast of youth and experience while the hounds watch in silence. Raoul helps Labelle to her shoulder, satisfied to see that his permanent librarian is finally ready for high-stakes combat. The tiny creature promises to help. Philip looks on in confusion, unable to see the fairy spirit but sensing a tremendous power radiating from nearby. Label uses the power of the core to forcibly draw out the master's remaining strength for a temporary heal. Officers of the First Guild gather around their lord with cold expressions, ready for the coming slaughter. The leader declares that the coming battle will be unlike any raid, and he cannot promise that any of them will survive. Philip and Jake acknowledge the order instantly. A massive dimension gate flares to life, spilling orcs into the capital's noble district. Royal guards waver as the horde breaks their rigid formations in a single heartbeat. Masked agents mock the kingdom's efforts, declaring that everything already belongs to the Empire and their struggle is useless. Spectral arrows snipe the mages from the rooftops before they can finish their dark ritual. The banner of the First Order flaps in the wind as the cavalry charges through the burning palace gates. Our hero rides a white stallion at the head of his army, with armor reflecting the flickering firelight. The horse rears up and thwacks a rebel knight, clearing the path with one powerful strike. People hail the First Guild as saviors, unaware that every move is part of a calculated plan. Instinctively, they gallop toward the inner sanctum, appearing as a disciplined wall of iron and lethal purpose against the chaos. Slipping inside the palace alone, the leader orders his knights to secure the remaining sectors. Philip bows deeply, asking his young lord to return safely from the heart of the enemy's den. Jake and Piers clench their hilts, ready to teach the bastards a lesson for crossing House Ashton. The blonde master blurs through the hallways, his speed making the common guards look like stationary targets in his path. Jose, the captain of the Royal Guard, delivers a crushing slash that sends an intruder tumbling backward into the wall. The captain offers a predatory grin, noting the sixth prince managed to defeat two power armor users. Prince Herdian grips his sword tight, realizing even the guard captain has joined hands with the Empire. The prince grits his teeth in pure hatred, unable to believe that such an honored man would commit treason. Prince Gerard steps into the light with a dark grin, ordering Jose to take command of the rear troops. Herdian flinches as his brother arrives unexpectedly. Gerard looms over his sibling, asking if he truly believes he is the one leading this rebellion today. The traitor prince is frozen in shock. A surge of mana erupts as the polymorph ring's deception is finally revealed in a brilliant blue flash. Kane drops the disguise and introduces himself as a member of the First Guild sent to rescue the prince from the palace. High above the palace, the master stands on a ledge, sensing that the soldiers have been drawn away. Mana channels into the stone boulders. Moving like a golden phantom, the intruder vaults over high walls and dashes into the palace interior. A relentless barrage of stabs takes every one of the masked guards down in a single move. Landing amidst the fallen, the warrior notes the royal guards were unable to withstand the rebel assault. A dash toward the throne room follows, as there is no time to waste before before the final confrontation with the mastermind. Outside, the city continues to burn as commoners follow the first knights towards safety. Bernard coordinates the evacuation with a gray face. Nakia walks into the chaos, her eyes igniting with a golden light as she prepares a vial. The alchemist throws the potion toward the sky, unleashing a massive pillar of mana that pierces the clouds above the capital. A giant magic circle forms over the city, was crackling with high-tier alchemical energy. Torrential rain begins to fall, extinguishing the fires and giving civilians a chance to escape. Jake and Bernard meet in the rain, relieved to see that the alchemist's spell has been successful in saving the city from burning. Raoul continues his dash through the palace halls, his trusty spirit helper flying faithfully by his side toward the throne room. Sir Carson tells the traitor to drop his sword and face judgment before it is too late. Prince Herdian roars in defiance, refusing to back down after everything he has sacrificed for the throne. Out of nowhere, Viscount Plank appears behind the chairman with a look of pure and unadulterated hatred for the meddling swordmaster. The finance minister strikes with corrupt green energy, catching the master off guard. The Carson groans in agony as the dark mana attempts to invade his system and test his willpower. Plank laughs heartily, noting that the legendary persistence of the association chairman is quite troublesome for his plans. Eyes glowing with an unnatural light reveal a mysterious power that far exceeds any normal human capacity. The traitor prince rises from the floor with cold determination as he watches the master fall. The finance minister offers a predatory grin, declaring that Carson has seen far too much of their plan to be kept alive. The villain swings his hand to deliver the finishing blow, green flames warping the air around his fingers with lethal intent. Steel rings out as the blonde blurs into the room and intercepts the strike with his own mana-infused blade. The blonde master offers a confident smirk, eyes greeting the Viscount as they meet once more. The king wonders how to face his realm. The real Prince Gerard bursts through the doors, screaming for his father and rushing to his side. Kneeling before the throne, the prince shows rare and genuine relief to see the king alive. The son warns that his brother's safety must remain their highest priority during this era of total collapse. Raoul stands tall as the hero of Turium. Plank offers a mocking smile, asking when the simple noble kid decided to start playing at being a revolutionary in the palace. Cool as ice, they collide with the force of a star. Dust is brushed from a shoulder with a bored expression, noting the dark strike merely stings. Carson watches from the ground in disbelief, realizing that the Ashton heir has grown more powerful every single day since their meeting. The youth stands tall amidst the floating debris, his authority over the battlefield now absolute and unshakable against the minister. Plank admits he underestimated the boy, his fake warmth replaced by a look of pure fury. The villain reveals that by winning over the guard captain, the palace gates are officially open to the Empire. A demonic beast manifests from alchemical vapor. The hero bellows for the traitor to keep his mouth shut, declaring he has no problem slaying a good-for-nothing traitor today. Gerard grits his teeth in fury, realizing he is nothing more than a puppet in the Empire's grand design. Jose stands by the prince's side, his expression showing he has still not grasped the reality of the situation. Herdian walks away with a heavy heart, swearing to make House Ashton suffer more than any other for their interference. Raoul turns toward the finance minister, his analytical eye uncovering a hidden potential that makes his current stats look small. Plank summons a massive wave of black energy that coats the entire room in a sickly and unnatural green hue of death. Standing his ground beside the swordmaster, the hero's fist clenches as the sonic boom from the mana movement blows back the thick smoke.